Sorry about that, folks. Something else I'll prepare. I forgot to prepare other stuff. Forgot. Played Far Cry 5 last night. Alright, because I got this prepared. So, yeah, there we go. Way over there. Because I need to listen to it. Might not be able to watch it much. I mean, I'll have it on. Just in case I need to look at it. I listen to most of my stuff while driving. I figured, hey, I'll be gaming for a little while. Might as well throw it on. I want to see what happens. I want to see if YouTube flags it. Maybe the sound of the game and my voice, in addition to whatever else, will keep me getting a copyright. Not a strike. Probably a warning. What if I want to do a commentary on it, you know? It's fair use. Anyway. Let's get that going then.
You're a New York Times reader, an NPR fan, a Daily Wire subscriber, or an avid consumer of all things Tucker Carlson. For several months now, there's been no avoiding the subject of Nick Fuentes. And let's be clear, the main reason you're hearing about him is because he's popular. A large number of people, especially young men, are interested in what he has to say. What that says about our society and our culture is the subject of ferocious debate. For many people, it's a grave indictment of an insidious immorality.
Making bullets.
For others, he's a product of a culture which has turned on its own and left many young people feeling listless and bitter. He's either a litmus test for right-wing hypocrisy on free speech
I need a
or
lot of
walking manifestation of where the line should be drawn. And a frankly preposterous amount of airtime has been spent on debating everything from his ideology to his sexuality,
I need some
and whether
bullet
anyone
tips.
should actually talk to him
That
at
would
all.
help.
If I were writing a glossary entry on the Streisand effect, I wouldn't put a picture of her next to it. I would put a picture of Nick Fuentes.
They have opted to not do so when it comes to Nazis like Nick Fuentes.
Fuentes takes this guy apart brick by brick. It's a full takedown.
My concern is
10,000,
that
I
people
believe.
who are a bit more moderate are deeply alarmed by Nick Fuentes.
I was very
What else would I
happy to
use that
see
for?
that, like, Nick Fuentes really passed that test with flying colors.
That fragmentation is being caused purposefully by a splinter faction of people led by a young man named Nick Fuentes.
That's the war. And you get the beef prices down. Not crazy things that Nick Fuentes or these other loons say on social media.
Well, it looks like all the screaming
all
about
the lead I
Nick
have.
Fuentes on the internet is finally dying down a little bit.
So now we had on this guy, this Fuentes guy, and never challenged him.
You should have Nick Fuentes on your show and you could ask him questions about that.
The truth is, it doesn't make a lot of sense to spend all this time talking about Nick Fuentes, but not actually to Nick Fuentes. People who say you shouldn't give him a platform overlook the very obvious fact that he already has a platform of his own, which is often bigger than most of the people
That would be
complaining. And he uses it to speak
15,000.
unchallenged to his many followers. It's on that basis that I've invited him to appear live and uncensored on my platform. And Nick Fuentes joins me now. Nick Fuentes, welcome to Uncensored.
Hi, great to be with you.
I don't know you. I don't think we've ever met. You can correct me if that's wrong. I know
Starts off a little
about you.
hostile.
I know that increasingly people are talking about you in a more mainstream environment than you may be used to. So for those who know nothing about Nick Fuentes, I want this to be an opportunity to get to the real
we'll need more clay as well.
person. I don't know who that person is, but I do want to use this opportunity to get there. I've seen you talk as we prepared for this in exchanges with people and on your show, saying you fear
I'll do
it's
some
going to be
mining
very
here soon,
hostile, it's
but,
going to be an ambush, all those kind of things. I don't intend it to be overtly hostile. I don't
Can't make
intend
any bullets
to
other than
ambush
shotgun
you.
shells.
I intend it to be an examination of what you said on the record,
some.
an examination of what
Never
you
got to put away.
believe or what you say
Speaking
you
of which,
believe. And an
about these?
examination of what
No.
your rising popularity says
No.
about the state of the conservative
put it
movement
away.
in America. So those are my goals from this interview. What are your goals? Why are you doing it?
I thought it'd be interesting.
Oh, yeah, but that blade
and
trap
you know,
thing,
you've talked a lot about me on your show over the years, and this is the first time you actually extended the invitation. I think it might be the second, actually. I think we We talked about doing it during A24 a few years ago, but you've talked a lot about me with the panel, and now you've extended the invitation to talk to me. And I think it'd be interesting
And we'll have to add
for
some
me
more
to maybe clarify
turrets.
some positions. And
They'll just
maybe
add
get to
them
know
up
you a
here.
little better as well. So I'm looking
No
forward
cage,
There
nothing.
is a
The
belief,
blade trap will basically
that
be
you
there
have
for protection.
Two personas. There's one that you roll out now for podcasts and for shows like mine, where you come across as reasonable. And then there's
For
your show
support,
on
I think it's
Rumble,
fine. I don't
where
know.
you
I-
often
it's not
come
sticking out
across
too
as
far.
having,
It'll be fine.
you know,
It'll be
a
fine.
very unreasonable view on things.
It collapses
This is what
while I'm
Coleman
working
Hughes
on it. That's
said
different.
about you.
Nick Fuentes knows exactly what he's doing. He is consciously playing this double game as part of a long-term strategy to become
A lot of SMGs
popular
right there.
enough to take the reins of power, at which point he plans to pivot towards the extreme and unpopular policies
Oh,
that
now's
he
my time.
advocates daily on Rumble.
So first of all, what is your response to that?
I don't even need to use that hatchet anymore. I
Well,
can just
first
jump
of
up
all, I
here.
would say that
They-
Coleman Hughes is
They
the
didn't bother me with
propagandist who
that.
works for
I
the
just
Free
fell off a few
Press,
times.
which is run by Barry Weiss. So I think that's, you have to consider the source. And Barry Weiss is a pro-Israel partisan. Free Press is just bought out by CBS for $150 million by Larry Ellison or his son David
Do I have a
Ellison.
miners
And so
outfit?
I
I
think
need
that's
to
coming
make a
from
level 6
a
miners
particular point of
outfit.
view. We can't pretend like that's coming from
I can do that,
a vacuum
I
or
think.
from some fixed position. That's coming from a propaganda outlet that's in favor of Israel. That's first. But second, I would say he is right
Do I need for that?
about the two personas. And I think that everybody understands this on some level. On my show, I make jokes and I use rhetoric and I'm hyperbolic. Because for a
iron,
long
forged
time, I had an
steel,
audience
leather.
that was
Oh,
small
armor crafting kit.
on these like dissident
a few of those.
platforms. I was on D Live
I'll have to
for
make
many
more of
years. A lot of people don't even know what that is. And so I had a small following, and we had sort of like an
least get the
in-group
boot
sense
started.
of humor and memes and things like that. And you talk about it one way on a freewheeling live stream when I'm by myself and I'm ranting, and we make jokes and we play devil's advocate. We play with different positions. But then when you sit down in an interview like this one, and people ask me a good faith question, what do you actually believe?
How do you make armor
well, then I
crafting kits?
clarify and I say, well, here I'm not joking. Here I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not being rhetorical. I'll tell you precisely what I believe.
Duct
As far
tape,
as
sewing
this
kit,
idea that
armor
I'm going to
parts.
get power and then turn into Hitler, that just sounds totally insane to me. I'll be honest. It just sounds insane.
Do you have aspirations for political power?
Not really. I think that if I wanted to run for office, I wouldn't say a lot of the things that I say. I don't know that a lot of people would vote for me. I tend to offend everybody, even a lot of people that
6,
like me.
12,
So no, I'm a truth teller. I like to tell the truth.
18
I like to
more.
do my
That's
live
easy.
stream.
Who is Nick Fuentes? Tell me about your upbringing. I know you grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. Tell me about your early years.
Or early how?
quick.
Like my childhood or a little bit
your
later?
childhood, yeah.
Well, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago in LaGrange Park, as you say. My parents are ethnics. My father's half Mexican, half Irish. My mother's Italian. And they both came from a pretty rough upbringing themselves. They both were raised by single mothers, not because of divorce, but because both of their fathers had died. They endured a lot of dysfunction. And I think that's one of the reasons they came together and they related to each other and they wanted to create a normal upbringing for their children. They wanted to have a normal family life. And so they moved out to LaGrange Park away from the city. And they raised me and my sister and really put us
Not towards
first. I think
the
that's a
front,
big reason
which you need
why
to be.
I tend to have a lot of these family values or Christian values. My mother quit her job and stayed
There
at
it
home to
goes.
raise us. And so I have a very close relationship with my parents, with my sister. We're a very tight family.
Well, I have
And we
4 of
grew
these.
up in a pretty idyllic town. And maybe we can sort of get into a conversation about politics from this. I loved my upbringing. My mom stayed at home. My dad was working. We're in a mostly white suburb in Chicago. Everybody was maybe half Catholic, half Protestant. It was a baseball town. I played baseball for many years. In Chicago, we love our hot dogs. We have our baseball parade and get a hot dog. And so I love where I came from. I love the city. It's a working class city. I love the people here. They're very good, humble, down to earth, decent people. And I guess I had my
I'll carry it with
political,
me. I hate
not
how
to
they
jump
slow me
ahead,
down.
but this is a big part of where
This
my political
reminds me when
awakening
Peter
came
Griffin
from.
said he
I
hated
sort of
ninjas.
left this bubble, if you could call
Really?
it that, when I went to college in 2016, I went to Boston University. And I read a lot of things online, and I realized the country does not look like LaGrange Park. It doesn't look like Western Springs or Hinsdale or Elmhurst. It looks very different. The country's undergoing a radical transformation because of immigration. And so I saw that, and I said, this is not really a desirable change. I don't like the south side of Chicago or the west side or LA or certain parts of Boston as much as I like where I came from. And I guess that's what made me an American nationalist. I said I want to preserve my home and the things that are familiar to me and the things I like about my home. What makes it America? So that's a little bit about my background. I don't know where you want to go with that, but
I don't know the term. I didn't watch
my
it.
first obvious question is: were your parents immigrants to the United States, or their parents, or the grandparents? In other words, at some stage, I presume
eat the less burnt parts.
There
I
were
guess
immigrants in your family who came to the U.S.
Unhealthy to eat burnt foods.
There were. I believe my
I need
mother was
lead,
generation and my father was
iron,
third generation.
I'm gonna start over here.
So their ancestors came here.
We also need coal.
On my mom's side in the 1860s.
I have a line over here.
The first wave
lead
of
and,
Italian immigration.
lead left.
My father's
Coal.
ancestors, I think they came around the turn of the century in 1900.
So your view of immigration, and we'll get to the specifics about your views on immigration. Are they not affected at all by the fact that if it wasn't for immigration, you wouldn't exist as an American?
Well, I would certainly exist, but like you said, maybe not as an American. Certainly that's influenced in some measure. But I think that the kind of immigration that we had for a long time in the country, it's different than the immigration that we have now. And let's just say for openers, it's different immigrants. They're coming from a different place with a different culture, a different religion. It's not the same as it was. So first, you have a qualitative difference. My ancestors, for the most part, I have 3 European grandparents from Ireland and Italy, 1 from Mexico. They came from Europe. They came from a society where there's no light on ancestry, there's common religion, common civilization. The people that have come in since 65, since Hart-Celler, they're coming from China, India, the Northern Triangle, Mexico, Venezuela. And so first, they're just different people. Secondly, it's a quantitative difference. There's way more, and it's an unceasing, always increasing wave. For the first 3 or 4 waves of immigration, you would have a major influx of immigrants, and then it would stop. And then you'd have another wave, and then it would stop. This one, it just keeps going up for 35 years, and it's too many. So that's really where I would draw the distinction between maybe where I originate from. I would even just simply call that immigration. What this is an invasion. It's a completely different policy.
But you mentioned you mentioned Mexico in that list, and your father is half Mexican. So
yeah,
I mean, by your criteria, part of the invasion would include your father, presumably, and his immediate descendants who came from Mexico.
Not really true, because when my father's ancestors came here, it was a small fraction of the total immigrants that came from Mexico. I don't believe that we should have 0 immigrants forever, or even 0 immigrants from non-white countries. Yeah. But you have to draw the distinction. My father's father, he was here in the 40s and 50s. It was his parents, or I believe either his parents or grandparents, that came here even earlier. Up until 1965, 90% of the immigrants were coming from Europe. I have no problem with that. If we have 10% of them coming from Mexico or Latin America, maybe that's reasonable, but that's not what it is now. Now you've got 10 million illegals in 4 years under Joe Biden, and you got millions more legal immigrants from China, India, Venezuela, El Salvador, and it's so many with no break for assimilation, and they're all from non-white countries. It's transforming what America is. And again, that's the distinction. That's what makes it unacceptable.
I always believe everybody's a product of their environment.
I saw him on my FYP today, and he was telling a woman to say the N-word because she was saying that people should take back every single word. Then the black dude came out and said he would be a victim if she said the N-word, LOL.
And I was reading some stuff about you.
Yeah, I was watching one of his Matt Walsh episodes.
Of your podcast where you talked about your father.
This one guy.
And how he wouldn't take the family, including you, to certain restaurants because he believed they were associated with African Americans.
Okay, this one guy got stabbed.
James to 2ND. BRB Pop Nemo.
Okay.
would be deciding where to go to eat, you said. What are we going to do for dinner tonight? It was a running joke. Me and my sister would say Applebee's, and my dad would say we would never eat at Applebee's. Not in a million years should you be caught dead, Fuentes said about Applebee's. Go to a different restaurant, a local restaurant. No Applebee's, no Red Lobster. That is commonly known as black fare. And you also shared another story about your family and restaurants. Said before me and my sister were born, my family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N-word that we're not allowed to say. So my question, based on that anecdote that you say on your own podcast, is do you think you grew up in a racist environment, that your father was inherently racist, and that thought process moved to you?
Well, I would say it's a new low. I've been attacked for being a racist many times, but to attack my father, to attack my parents based on anecdotes, I would say that's sort of a new low.
Hang on, it's your anecdote.
Yeah, but he's not here to defend himself.
You are.
And my parents are.
You told the story.
And I will, and I'll
I'm not trying to ambush you. As I said at the start, Nick, to be clear.
No, it's not an ambush.
Nick, to be clear, I'm not ambushing you. I'm literally reading an anecdote that you revealed on your podcast. It's you that's put it in the public domain.
I know.
I'm simply asking you
that
whether
one.
my assessment of that, which is that your father didn't want to take you to certain restaurants because of what you refer to as they were.
Yeah, I was talking about how this one guy apparently got stabbed by a black guy, and because he used the N-word
in that instance,
after the fact, I'm talking to the cops. The jury acquits.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think
stabber.
everybody knows what
the guy
that is,
actually
but I'll
admits
address
to
it.
stabbing
I'll engage
him.
with it, and I'll defend my father from the charge of racism.
Whatever.
Sure.
No, my parents are not racist, and they've never been racist. I'll tell you about my parents. They used to have a school in Chicago in the South Loop where they instructed people on how to shoot firearms. It was a security school, and most of the clients were black.
There's still some lead left.
And I believe actually one of their clients was Larry Hoover's son at one point, sort of a funny story. And so most of their clients would come in from the south side of Chicago. My grandmother, she grew up in the projects in the city. And so my family, being in Chicago, being ethnic, being Italian, Irish, Mexican, and the west side on Taylor Street,
probably 2.
all over the city. My family for many generations have lived near and around black people, and
I don't know.
My views about black people and their views about
get
black
to know you
people are
more.
shaped with experiences with black people. And what they will tell you, what my parents would say if they were here, is that
Gotta know
for
if it's
many, many
justified
years,
or not. Maybe you haven't
the older generations of black people were very respectful, very humble, very decent.
You haven't had to
In fact,
experience
my grandma used to have an anecdote.
some of the crap that
She
happens
grew up in a
around
lot of
here, but you
dysfunction.
probably
Her
get
mother
some
was
of that in
mentally ill,
Canada.
and they would be having dinner in the projects, and there'd be so much chaos and dysfunction and disagreement and fighting, and she would look across the way out the window at a black family
collapse on me
in the other
eventually.
apartment, and they'd be holding hands around the table saying grace. And this is sort of the culture that used to prevail. But now what you have in the city
I sent a
is that
video
there's no
about a person
accountability
waving anus
for the black
passport at a
people, and now
Mexican at the
Chicago
border,
has
LOL.
become a complete
All right,
dump
maybe a 5,
because
then.
these teenagers go out and they take over the city. They call them teen takeovers.
Depends
that's the
on who you're
euphemism
being
for it. They're
racist
teenagers.
towards too. Like, there's
But
a
they
lot
all
of
come
black
from the
people
same
I wouldn't
neighborhood.
say
They
the
drive
N-word
up
to
there,
unless we're just
and
doing
they
it as a
mug
sign
people
of
and attack
endearment.
people, and they destroy
But
cars and destroy shops. We had the
I wouldn't
Festival
call
of Lights a
everybody
couple of
that.
weeks ago. It's supposed to be a
Depends
family
on
event.
their
And
attitude.
they light up the trees.
How
And
they present
there's
themselves.
a big parade. I was in the parade one year, and you had a bunch of black people
James
there
with 2
shooting
MD.
each other. 7 people
I
shot.
respect
A
some black
14-year-old
people.
killed in the
I got some
Magnificent
black
Mile.
friends.
And I know there's a lot of black people that feel the
Like
same
the
way
other-
about
other
this. They
races.
say,
Yeah, I got
"We've
black
lost control of the
friends. I
city."
can say it.
And we're looking for
Not all black
accountability.
people deserve
We have a
respect.
lot of black people
Nope.
that are always
It's-
outraged
respect
about
is
racism,
earned and not
outraged
given.
about attitudes from white people,
gonna
but
save
they're
you.
never ashamed of some of these behaviors, never ashamed of
Doing
some of
this
the things that
like
go
I
on.
did the
And that's
last one
why
where I just
I think there's a
started from
lot
the
of
top,
negative
work my way
attitudes these
down.
days.
Don't worry
And so,
about.
you know,
using-
again, I think those attitudes, you say I'm a product of my environment. I
blocks.
am. And so are my parents and my grandparents. Unlike you, because you're not even American, in Chicago, we have to live in a big, diverse city where there's a lot of different kinds of people. And I
live in
think
a big,
anybody in
diverse
Chicago
city.
will tell you the
Nick,
same.
It collapses on me. It collapses on me. Look at that minor
the
outfit on.
biggest and most
Supposed
diverse
to, I
cities in
think,
the world.
protect me a little bit.
But it's not the same.
Shit
Well,
falls.
actually, it's a big diverse city. The only difference is we don't have the gun violence because we don't have guns. That's a whole different story. I don't want to get into that with you. I have got into that before
You
in
got
America.
a knife problem. You got sword problems.
We have problems
You
with
have Aladdin.
We have
Sword
problems
problems.
with violent crime. I make no pretense of it. So the idea that somehow I'm cosseted in London because I'm not in
I
Chicago.
didn't say that.
Well, you kind of implied it, but I guess my point about the environment, I'm not saying you are a product of your environment. I'm saying most people are in some capacity. When I read that anecdote, which just to remind you, it's not something I have put out there. You told this story, right? And you said that
You said this. We're looping. You said this already.
But you haven't really directly, I think, responded to it, which is whether your father would not take you to certain restaurant chains because he associated them with black Americans. Is that true?
No, well, see here, if you're in America, you would say that Olive Garden is not real Italian food. Applebee's, TGI Fridays, this stuff is a load of crap. My dad was just a food snob, but no, it's got nothing to do with that. My best friend in first grade was a black guy. We're not a racist family, so.
Okay, so when you told the story, I'm just curious. So when you told that anecdote,
Just him.
clearly on the face
He's
of
not
it
racist.
is
I mean, he's racist, but he's
racist, right?
I don't think he says most black people need to be in prison.
Racist
Not all
decisions
of them.
about where you would go as a family to eat. Are you saying? Well, I'm just going to ask you a question. Are you saying that when you told that story, you didn't mean to infer that he was racist? And do you understand why when somebody like
James
me
the
reads that
2ND.
anecdote for the
Is
first
this a
time, as I did
podcast or
this
some
week,
shit?
I reach a
I
different
don't
conclusion?
watch podcasts, so I can't tell if
Well,
I'm
I
watching
understand
one
what you're
or not.
doing, which is
LOL.
the sort of
It's
making
the
of
Piers
a murderer.
Morgan
How did he
show,
become racist?
which I
Well, his
believe is
father
live
didn't
on
leave
television,
him
but it's
alone.
also a
That's not real
YouTube channel
Italian
as
food.
well.
Hang on, can I? What's with the
I'm
interruption?
And it's like a
I'm
podcast.
literally
But
reminding
it's not a
you
podcast.
of something you said on
I'm sure
my
it's
show,
on-
which led me
Well,
to,
and
which
it
led
was
me
I don't know
to
what channel
a
it's
certain
on.
thing. If I'm
BBC?
wrong, tell me.
Yeah, it was said in jest as a humorous anecdote, and now you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is his parents are racist. He comes from a long line of racists. And I think everybody knows my parents are boomers.
James the 2ND.
And these people come, well, you're a
Big
boomer, I
black
guess,
cock.
too, in a
I'm
way,
60.
right? You were born
I'm
in what,
60.
19? Yeah, so you're a boomer also. Or maybe you're a Gen Xer. I suppose it's sort of on the cusp. But it's a humorous anecdote. These are kind of the attitudes of baby boomers in society, but you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is you're a product of your environment. Your dad's racist because of this
give me any?
joke. Now you're a racist, and I don't think that's a fair characterization.
Okay, people can make their own minds up. They can go back and listen to you say it. I mean, the beauty of what I'm going to talk to you about in this interview is that almost all of it is just going to be reminding you what you have
No
said
gold.
and asking you what you meant. Your position about that
Brass.
story is that it was a joke.
Oh,
Okay,
because of the lead, I guess.
I want to come to something else you said. This is where you talked about Jews, women, and blacks. Let's take a listen.
James the
They're
2ND.
always coming up with, no,
This is
it's
like
not
the
the
smooth
Jews.
Minecraft
No, it's
mod,
not
LOL.
women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it fucking isn't at all. Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
Yeah, see the most
And
part.
we would
Not
live
all
in
of them.
paradise. It's that simple.
Okay. Would you like to clarify what you meant there?
That's all true. That's 100% true. Everything I said in that clip is true.
Including that blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
Yeah. Yes.
But all of them?
No, for the most part.
What does the most part mean? What percentage of
James the
American blacks
2ND.
would you like to see in
Jews
prison?
can sniff money in bank vaults.
Whatever the percentages of the murderers.
In
I
your
think it's 1 in
pockets.
20 black
Which is
men
not
will commit
that
a
hard.
murder in their lifetime.
Bank
so
vaults,
maybe let's
yeah.
say
They
that,
can smell
5%.
through
Oh,
the
so you're
steel.
talking about black people who murder people.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But you didn't
Yeah,
say
that's-
that.
that's
You
the
just
prime
said
problem.
blacks need to be imprisoned.
Or you could just
for the most
assume.
part.
You see a
didn't
vault,
clarify.
there's probably
You're
money in
talking
there.
about black murderers.
Maybe
Right.
should say
Right.
that about it.
No, you're right. That's a good addition to that. That's a great
But if it's
point.
an empty
Do you
vault,
think it's-
maybe
do
they
you
can
think it's
tell. I
funny?
don't know.
Or
I think, yeah, I do. I think it's hilarious.
I don't have
I
any
think it's
Jewish friends
totally
to
true.
ask.
do you think a black
I think-
American would find it funny?
James
Do you
the
think
2ND.
that blacks should
Or
be in prison
100
for the most
illegals.
part?
Blacks are my biggest fans. I get high fives all the time. They say, Nick Fuentes, I love your show. They agree with me. And you want to know why? Here's the difference. black people are the most victimized by other black people. You think black people want to live in the hood and the ghetto and get shot all the time? That's what happens in the south side of Chicago. You should come here. I'll take you there. We could go to Garfield Park.
My son went to Chicago University for a year, actually, several years ago.
Yeah, that's a bubble. That's a bubble. You think you're in Chicago and Hyde Park? You don't know Chicago. Go a little bit west, see what it's like over there. And I'll tell you, black people agree with me because they're tired of it too. And maybe not most of them, but a lot of them agree with what I say about that because they know how it is. That's why the first thing they do when they make a little bit of money is they go and leave to another neighborhood.
Okay, so what was just remind me again, the percentage of black men who commit murder in America. What was the percentage you gave me?
It's 1 in 20. 1 in 20.
It's 1 in 100.
I'll get closer to my turret.
It's 1 in 20.
No. Less than 1 in 100 black U.S. men commit murder.
Do you think, Kurt?
Up-to-date crime statistics in America.
That's not true.
I've
seen other statistics. They say 1 in 20 will eventually commit a murder.
So your rate means that you're saying that 5 times as many black men
James
commit murder as the official crime statistics.
You don't have to apologize.
Yeah, there's a report, I believe, on X by Data Hazard. I'll have to go and double check that for you. But yes, there's some pretty shocking evidence that says that it's far more alarming than you would think.
She screamed? What the fuck did she scream? Or maybe it was a random spawn.
I don't have it in front of me. I've seen other evidence. Like I said, Data Hazard on X, I believe, produced a report about a year ago. It said 1 in 20. But, I mean, whether it's 1 in 20 or 1 in 100, that's a lot of people, Piers. I mean, this is a lot
of white people commit murder, too. Well, they do, don't they?
Okay, but it's about proportionality. I mean, white people are 65% of the population. Blacks are 13%. And I think anybody would tell you that more black people, proportionally, commit violent crime than white people, and people vote with their feet. People would rather pay a much higher property tax.
Most mass shootings.
What's with interruptions?
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's
you know,
quick.
you look at in Chicago, in New York, these neighborhoods are so stratified.
Tranquil in the dark.
People would rather pay a high tax rate. They'd
Seeing
rather
their
pay
eyes
a
glow.
much higher property value to live in a less diverse, less black neighborhood because they don't want to live around the violence. And I think that when you look at
diamond
even on the public transit, the subway, the blue line, you know, people don't want to go there because they know who occupies and menaces the public transit. It is these people like Daniel Penny had to deal with. It's people like Irina Zarutska had to deal with. And that's just the uncomfortable reality.
Yeah. You've also said you don't want to live near black people.
James
Let's take a listen to this.
It's mostly black people though who commit crimes, but you don't hear about those ones. You only hear about the white peonies.
Yeah.
You know,
I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids.
Then when
bringing
you
home
look
black
at
people to
the
marry.
mugshots or whatever
It's
rap
racial
sheets,
for me.
they'll call black people and Hispanics
call
white
me racist.
when they're
Oh,
clearly
very
not.
Christian of you. I don't
Just
give
try
a
to
fuck.
skew the numbers.
I mean, it couldn't be clearer, really, unless you want to say that's another of your jokes. But you're basically saying, yeah, I'm a racist, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
James the 2ND.
You're fine with saying you're a racist.
Totally. I think everybody's racist. I think everybody, if we're being honest, is racist. I think everybody, the only people that aren't racist or pretend not to be are white people to their detriment. Everybody else is racist.
But earlier in the interview, you really got aggrieved at the idea that your father was a racist.
James the 2
wanted to make
ND.
emphatically
Yeah, because
sure
my
he's-
father's
Jeans black and
He's
Spanish.
not.
because my father doesn't share my
James the
same
2
views
ND.
on that.
So he's the
Means
exception to
asterisk.
the everyone's a racist.
Well, everybody's a little bit racist. You're right. So maybe everybody. The difference is you're attacking my father. You know, he
I'm
could
not
get
attacking
fired
your
from his
father.
job.
I'm not attacking your father.
You are.
No, I'm not. I don't know your father. And to be
James the
clear,
2ND.
I have no
LOL.
knowledge about him at all.
Well, then let's leave him out of it.
Well, hang
Let's
on.
leave him out of it if you
Hang
don't
on,
know.
Hang on, Nick. You put that story into the public domain on your show. I'm simply reminding you of what you told everybody, millions of people, about your father. If you now want to retract it, fine. If you want to say it was a joke, which is what your position was earlier, fine. But I'm allowed to put to you things you said publicly. That's not unfair. That's not me targeting your father. You put that story about him out
You know
there.
what you're doing. You know what you're doing.
I'm asking you about a
James the
pretty
2ND.
shocking anecdote, which
You
to
should
me
check your old
looked
minds to
like
see
you
if
were
there's
saying your
anything
father
left.
made decisions about where you
Checked
as
a
a family
few.
would eat. based on skin color.
I doubt there's anything
of
left
people
because I
who
usually
worked at
look
these
pretty
places.
well.
If you say, or you
I checked my
if you
first
say
line to see if
that is not
anything
what
may
you
have
meant,
reset.
that's
but
fine. You can
No,
respond
it
any
was
way you
still
like.
empty.
But the idea I can't ask you
This
about
is actually one of my
without you
earliest
saying I'm
lines. I just
attacking your
never
father is
attempted
ridiculous.
to get all the coal and lead out. I got most
Well,
of the
you
lead.
are, and you know what you're doing. And there's a political culture in America where if you have the wrong views, you get fired from your job. And my father has a job, and if you go on here and say you charge him with racism or something, and I'm put in a position where I don't look like I'm sticking to my guns if I don't say my father's a racist, you're putting him in jeopardy, and he's not here to defend himself or explain his views. And it's very low, and I think you know exactly what you're doing, and people can see what you're doing. I'll defend my views, and I think that, you know, so let's leave him out of it.
If the drone was here,
Let's
I had
just
him
not
turn
talk
his
about
light
my
on.
father because my father isn't here. I'm here.
Okay, well,
I'll
then do you
defend
accept
my
that you
views,
shouldn't
and I'll
talk?
defend
Okay, listen,
Antigo.
Get my way out of the
that's
way.
fine. But then do you accept you shouldn't talk about your father on your show? And you shouldn't tell...
Absolutely not. Absolutely
So
not.
it's fine for you to put a story out there which would make most people who listened to that story or watched it at the time on your show conclude that he was racist. It's fine for you to do that, but if I then ask you about it, I'm the one who's being unfair and I've crossed a line. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
A little unfair
Okay,
because he
that's
brought it up
malicious.
as an
Okay,
anecdote.
That's fine.
Pierce
That's fine. Listen,
dug
people
into
are
it.
watching this live.
Didn't
They can
have
draw
to.
their own conclusions about whether what I just
they
did.
will.
Yeah, and I'm
and they
sure
will.
afterwards, by the way, you'll say he ambushed me with your own with your own words.
Whoa.
With your own words.
You wouldn't say that.
That's a little presumptuous. I'm not going to say it's an ambush, but I think that's a low blow. And I think you know what you're doing, and that's fine. You're a
Didn't hurt
tabloid
me, either.
journalist. I expected that. I don't think it's an ambush because I knew it would be like this. And people will see what you're doing, and I think they'll say it's low. But as far as you want to talk about racism,
I do.
Let's talk about racism.
Okay,
Let's leave my dad out of it.
Look, you've admitted you're a racist, correct?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Own it.
Okay, that's fine. You're perfectly entitled in a free democratic society to stare down the barrel of his camera and tell me you're a racist. People can judge you accordingly. Many people who have assumed that you're racist will now have heard it from your own lips. That's fine.
There you go.
That's the point. The point of this interview is to go over the things you've said, which have led people to reach conclusions about you, and to ascertain whether those conclusions are fair and reasonable or
James
not.
the 2MD.
That's it.
Thank
so I want
you.
to play
I
you another clip.
sometimes
This is
feel
what you
like a
talk
Nazi
about
LOL
why
happy
white
person
people are
raising one
justified in
hand.
being racist. Let's take a listen to this.
Yeah.
First,
There's
white
a lot of things
people
Nazis
are
did that everybody
every
does.
single bit justified.
Hitler had a
in
dog.
being
Hitler was a
racist.
vegan.
Every single bit justified.
Hitler
to the
drank
extent
water.
that means going out of your way to avoid black people when you see them.
You can't help but feel like a
stand
Nazi.
by that?
sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So white
We
people
got
should
quiet
go
for a
out
second.
of their
What?
way to avoid black people when they see them.
Absolutely. They would be wise.
Why?
Because it's a lose-lose proposition. If you're Irina Zarutska and you don't walk the other way, you get stabbed to death and you die. If you're somebody else and you walk on the subway and you stand near a black person or something, maybe it's fine. It's a lose-lose
guy walks up to
proposition.
you behind you with a knife
I
out.
think that white people,
All right.
I think that white people have been beaten into submission, that we're afraid to tell the truth about it. And the truth is that when you go into these major cities like New York or Chicago, I believe she was in North Carolina, there is a menace, which is young, black, adolescent men. They're extremely violent. And we have been told that we have to pretend like they are every other person. We have to be colorblind to that. And we're supposed to go and be in the midst of all this danger. And I think that at this point, it's gotten out of control. You look at the BLM movement, they said that the reason that black people, are violent, or the reason there's crime, is because of police brutality, or redlining, or all these other things. They said we need to get rid of the police. We need to defund them. And a lot of cities did. A lot of cities like Chicago, for example, the police changed the rules of engagement. They don't chase them. It's not a felony if you steal a certain amount of merchandise. They won't chase them on foot. And now the city's totally up for grabs. And now, whether you're in the Gold Coast or whether you're on the Mag Mile or you're in the worst neighborhoods in the city, You might get shot, you might get mugged, someone might run up on you. And I tell my followers, it is better to be perceived as racist or racist and walk the other way and maybe keep your life than to say, I'm a good anti-racist. I don't mind that this person's making me uncomfortable. Maybe he's looking a little froggy. I'm going to sit down because I'm a good person and get stabbed, mugged, whatever. And by the way, this is a strategy. They call it the friendly stranger. There's a crew of them. They do this in Chicago. They stand outside bars, black people. They approach strangers. It's a robbery crew. And they pretend to be a friendly stranger, and then they mug them. And stupid white people say, oh, hi, yeah, nice to meet you. You know, they grin, they laugh, they put up with the nonsense, and then they get mugged, or worse. Sometimes they get executed. And so as a white person...
How do you feel about mass shootings at school?
I think they're bad.
Who do you think commits the vast majority of the mass shootings?
I'm sure it's white people.
Right. So how do you feel about that?
I think that white people do more antisocial violence. I think black people participate in more gang violence. I think that's the difference.
What's the difference to the victims?
There's no difference to the victim, but it's a different kind of crime, and it's a different proportion also. Do you know what percentage of white people are school shooters?
I know that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools in America this century were perpetrated by young white men.
And what proportion of what proportion?
I'm curious.
Doesn't want to say.
I'm curious.
What proportion?
I'm curious whether your advice would be
percentage.
to people who have kids in these schools.
Is my mic working?
What
proportion?
Should they avoid white people at school? Should people with the kids at school avoid young white men at school?
No. Okay. Do you know what per capita means? Do you know proportionality? There are more black people proportionally that engage in violent crime or are involved in gangs, especially in these major cities, than there are white people that are school shooters compared to the entire white population, and everybody understands that.
Two-thirds of mass shootings at school perpetrated by white people.
But what proportion of white men commit school shootings? That's the question.
I've just told you. It's 60-65% of school shootings by white people.
You're telling me what proportion of school shootings are committed by white people. I'm saying what proportion of white people have committed school shootings. Are you playing dumb, or are you just not that smart?
What difference does that make to the children lying dead on the ground?
See, now you want to jump on the victims. The difference is you're asking, would you fear white people or black people? And that's the difference. The difference is in terms
What I'm saying
of
to you is, by your logic, if we now have agreed that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools are committed by white people and predominantly young white men, then presumably your advice would be to avoid young white men because they perpetrate these massacres. But it won't be because they're white, right?
So are you playing dumb, or are you actually dumb?
Maybe
it's
I'm
about
dumb.
proportionality.
Maybe I'm dumb.
You are because you're, well, I don't think you are dumb. I think you're smart actually, but you're deliberately avoiding per capita. And everybody knows that's the difference. What proportion of white men are school shooters? It's probably 0.00001%. What proportion of black men have committed violent crimes? It's probably like 5%. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it's very high. And I would add to that, even as it concerns schools, why do you think parents pay a super high property tax to live in a school district where there's white people? Because they know that if they go to the black school, it's going to be the Bloods and the Crips. It's going to be gangs. It's going to be, you know, you talk about school shootings. Nobody talks about all the school shootings that are committed by gangbangers in and around the school, and all the other violence that's associated with that. I mean, these schools in the south side of Chicago, you know, it's just not livable.
I have an answer for you, Nick. So the proportion of the population who carry out mass shootings is actually the same for black and white.
For white people, the proportion
2 hours long? Oh, shit.
The proportion
again,
of the
are you
population.
hearing it? No.
See,
What's
I
the
think the trouble with your
proportion?
statistics
54
is a
minutes.
lot of them don't bear much scrutiny.
Most of them.
We have a bunch of fact checkers checking all this in real time because you do have a tendency to just come out with a lot of old baloney. And when you say, you know, well, it's true. And when you're confronted with reality, you don't like it.
What's the figure? What proportion of white people have committed school shootings? With white people as the denominator and white people that have committed school shootings as the numerator, what's that percentage?
For both black and whites, the proportion of the population who carry out mass shootings generally is about the same.
No, tell me the number.
He doesn't have the number.
And then...
Now he's making shit up.
The only focus of your attention is the black shootings, the black crime. You don't want to live around black people. You want to avoid black people. You don't want interracial marriages or relationships that may produce black people. And yet, when I point out to you that there are many parts of crime in America where actually there's a majority of white people that perpetrate them, you don't care. You don't have any interest in that. It doesn't exercise your mind. Maybe because you don't.
See, no one's
maybe
buying
you don't
this.
have
This
kids.
argument lost. No one is buying this. Everybody understands per capita, and people can even see what you race ahead and say, well, we're comparing the proportion of white and black school shooters. I said, no, compare the proportion of school shooters that are white versus violent criminals that are black, because that was the basis of the monologue, is that you're very likely, if you encounter black people or a young black man in the city, that you're going to be the victim of a violent crime, of a robbery, a mugging, a car theft, a carjacking, or a murder. That's the difference, and it's about proportionality. And everybody sees past that because we all live in reality. You want to talk about product of your environment? People that live in New York, Chicago, LA, we live in reality. We live in this environment, and we see what it's like. And the threat, the danger, in terms of probability, it's not even comparable. And I would add, I would say this to your point. If you're in a high school and truly, if you see a white person who looks like a little autistic, he's got the SSRI stare, and he reaches for a backpack, people joke and say, run. Similarly, if you see a jalopy pulling up with a bunch of black people in it and they got their pants around the ankles, you're gonna run also. And I'm saying the same thing. The difference is, the latter happens much more often. It's much more common. You know, in Chicago, there's like 10,000 carjackings and car thefts every day. It's in the thousands. It happens all the time. How many mass shootings committed by autistic SSRI white people? I don't even know. I mean, it's probably in the single digits in the last decade in this city. That's the difference, and everybody knows that. But you're really just trying to carry water for liberal ideology. It's an ideological position.
No, I'm really not. I can absolutely say, yes, there is way too much black on black crime, for example, involving guns in Chicago.
And black on white also.
Yes, but there is way too much gun violence in Chicago, right? I mean, it's indisputable. I've got no problem saying that. The difference is I don't then lead myself into a thought process where I have to avoid all black people in case they shoot me. And you've already conceded that you are a racist. So when people hear you then say, I don't want to be living anywhere near black people, they already have heard you say, I'm a racist, so they assume you're doing that because of people's skin color. I don't think you would probably dispute that, right?
Well, you're separating two different things. The monologue, when I said I don't want to live around black people, that was after Irina Zarutska got shot. And it's true. I mean, they are a largely in this city, in Chicago, the south side, the west side, huge criminal population, and I don't want to live anywhere near it. And I do. I want to live in a white neighborhood. I think that that's extremely desirable, and I think even black people do.
Nick, you're perfectly entitled to that view.
When
you have obviously prefaced all this by saying, I am a racist, unashamedly, then people will assume that all your thought processes about all of these issues are driven by an aversion to people based on their skin color, which is the purest personification of racism.
Well, it's not an aversion. I would say it's the opposite. I like my own people. My own people are familiar to me, and I think that's true across the board. I think that people seek out other people that are like themselves, and every other group does this, whether it's blacks, Hispanics, Asians. You know, I get a lot of attacks when I talk about that I'm against interracial marriage. And what's funny is that every other group is against interracial or interethnic marriage. Jews,
but you're the
Chinese,
you're the product of an interracial marriage.
Yeah, I mean, that's debatable.
Not
Let's
really.
say for the sake of argument, sure.
No, you're the product of an interracial marriage, and your father is part Mexican. You're literally,
for the sake of argument,
the very person you've just told me you want to avoid.
What race is Hispanic? Is that a race?
Well, what do you think it is?
I'm asking you, what race is Hispanic?
Hispanic, of course it's a race. It's called Hispanic.
It's a mix between two races. It's a mix between indigenous Americans
It's not white,
and
though,
Europeans.
is it? It's not white.
Well, apparently you're more of a racial purist than me. You got like
Not
a
really.
one-drop
You just
rule
keep
thing
saying you
going.
only want to live
Kind
in a
of.
white neighborhood, but you're literally from a mixed race background yourself. You've literally
and I
got
live in
Mexican blood.
I know, and I live in a non-white neighborhood too. I'm trying to get out of here, though. But I'm trying to get out. But here's the thing.
Do you have any non-white? Do you have any non-white friends? Genuine question.
Most of my friends are non-white. Most of my friends are not, and non-white people love my show because they respect the honesty.
How many of your friends are black?
Many of them, like at least a dozen.
Wow.
Ye being one who you know, Sneeko being another who you also know.
Yeah. So how do they feel when you say you just want to be away from any black people, walk away from them?
Well, you know what Ye told me? I'll tell you verbatim what he said. That it doesn't come from a place of, and you use the word aversion. That's the first thing I'll actually dispute.
Not from a place of hate.
It's not an aversion on the basis of skin color, because that would seem to suggest it's like a stubborn, irrational bigotry. I don't consider myself a bigot. I consider myself a racial realist. I'm realistic about how the races are, and I speak provocatively about it. And I speak provocatively about our tribalistic instincts and tendencies as human beings. And I'm not a liberal ideologue that says that over time, with enough education, we're all going to see this great brotherhood where we're colorblind and everybody's the same. You know, I don't think that's ever going away. I think that race is real. It's not just skin deep. It matters to us and it matters to each other. And black people know that, and Hispanics know that, and Asians know that, and people like me that have partial Mexican ancestry, we know that too. And I think on that basis, we can have mutual respect and understanding, not aversion based on skin color.
The reason I use the word aversion is you literally said that you should walk the other way if you see black people. That is an aversion to black people based on their skin color.
No, that's called economy of information. That's economy of information. That's safety. And I said in the same monologue, if you watch it, it's like, I feel sorry. The problem is you clip the 10 seconds. I don't know if you watched the whole show, but in that monologue, I said, most black people are not violent or criminals. I said, and it's unfortunate that we're going to offend them when we turn and walk the other way. I said, but the problem is we don't know. We can't tell. And someone like Irina Zarutska, she sat down in front of a black man with her headphones in and wasn't paying attention because she was being a good liberal and said, I'm not uncomfortable by this. I'm progressive. Then she got stabbed in the neck. And I said, it's unfortunate that you would have to sit behind the black man to be safe. And if he's not violent or schizophrenic, he might be offended by that. I said, but I would rather offend him than die.
How many deranged white men have committed atrocious acts of murder in the last 10 years in America?
Proportionally far fewer.
But how
far
many?
fewer.
How many? Do you know how many?
You have a research team. You pull it up.
I mean, you're
in
very
front of
big
me.
on. You're obviously extremely exercised by that one story, which was horrific, for the record, absolutely horrific, and should never have happened. The person who perpetrated that evil act had a string of previous offences and should have been picked up more, and it should have been amplified more. I completely concur with all of that, but I just suspect you have no idea how many white people have committed similar crimes, do you?
No, because I know it's far fewer from experience.
Okay.
Because it's like you said. Well, and hang on, and I would add to that, you know, Irina Zarutska wasn't the first one. That was also after Austin Metcalf was killed in Texas.
Sure.
After Carmelo
How many
Anthony
times has it
stabbed
been
him in the neck.
perpetrated by white people?
Well, hang on, let me finish my point.
But you're
And then not
implying that
only
white
did-
people don't do this. And my point to you, Nick Fuentes, is of course,
Oh, I never said white people don't do
Of course,
it.
deranged white people commit heinous acts, but you don't either know.
disagreement.
You neither know nor care, or maybe both. Maybe you do know but don't care. You only seem to be focused on black people who commit crimes. And again, if you hadn't prefaced the whole debate about racism by openly conceding you are a racist, I could read other connotations into what you've been saying. But once you've said, I'm a racist, and then you only talk about black crime, I think people can watch this and they can say, yeah, he is. He's a racist. And everything that he says about crime is driven through the prism of being a racist who judges people according to their skin color.
Well, it's funny because it's quite on the contrary. And I said this in a similar monologue. You know, the problem is not that I wake up and I walk down the street and I see someone that doesn't look like me and it makes me angry. The problem is there's a pattern of behavior, which we've all seen. Blacks in America have become narcissistic, and they become narcissistic because they've been told they're victims of racism, they're victims of slavery. They've been told, really, there's no accountability. If they're rude, if they're inconsiderate, if they're criminal, they are told that they have no agency for their actions. They're being told, if you act in this way, it's because the white man made you that way. It's because the system's rigged against you. And so we have been telling black people this for a generation, and now there's no rules. Now they go, and what we hate to see as decent people, not even as white people, but decent people, even black people too, what we hate to see is rudeness, obnoxiousness, inconsideration, criminality, violence, and that's that pattern of behavior that we see all over social media. On
so
the
just to
body
be clear,
cam
you don't
footage,
like black people who play the victim and are rude. Is that your position?
I don't like that pattern of behavior.
And who are narcissists?
I see where this is going.
Yeah, you're ahead of me.
Turn this around on
you're
me.
ahead of me, aren't you? Because when I said,
Very
what black friends have you got? You said,
I am kind of black, aren't I?
No, not that. You said, I'm not saying you. I'm just saying your choice of black friend is Ye, who is arguably the #1 black victimhood narcissist in America. Do you understand the problem? So he's your friend. He's one of the very few black people you want to be associated with, but he's the epitome of what you just said you abhor about narcissistic black people.
I disagree. I disagree with you, and I'll tell you why.
I think
Because
he's
if you've ever
got
met
an
him
ego.
in
I
real
don't think
life,
he's a narcissist. No.
Okay, well then you know he's nothing but polite, considerate.
Actually, he was very rude to me the last 2 times I interviewed him. He's a supreme narcissist, and he's also.
You keep interrupting me. You're very rude. Are you black?
Which is a narcissist.
You're very rude by interrupting me right now.
To you.
I'm giving you a hard time, but I
okay,
do want to finish my point. I do want to finish my point about Ye. He is a guy who, when I was with him, wanted to make sure that everybody was heard. Everybody felt included. He's actually a very soft-spoken guy, very polite, and by the way, not violent. When you look at all the rappers that are in the music game, many of them, especially from Chicago, drill rap, they're talking about killing people, shooting people, they gangbang. He notably, if you know about him, he got his start because he was a nerd. He wore a backpack and a polo, and he wasn't a gangbanger. He rapped about his feelings and girls and his dreams and his ambitions. So, no, and by the way, he would tell me all the time, he doesn't even feel black. They make him feel not black because he doesn't do those things, because he's soft-spoken, because he's artistic, because he's a bit of a nerd or likes fashion. So I would disagree. He's actually not like that at all.
Okay.
When we're talking
He's also a Hitler-loving anti-Semite. And we're going to take a little commercial break here, and we're going to come back and talk about anti-Semitism and your views about Jewish people, and indeed what Ye said about the same subject matter. Angel Studios are back with a new must-see documentary. It's called Thank You, Dr. Fauci, and you're going to hear a lot more about it over the next few months. Award-winning filmmaker Jenna Thirst digs into the origins of COVID-19, a possible bio-arms race with China, and claims about history's biggest
the more I get to know him,
it's not a right-wing film or a
the more I
left-wing
think
film.
I like him.
It's a film about transparency,
That'd be a matter of
which is
time.
something we should all care about. First pulls over documents and interrogates scientists, intelligence
I think
professionals.
if I was in
and
Germany
It's
during
being
that
described
time,
as
I
a
would
Oppenheimer
have.
meets Outbreak. And if you've ever wondered what really happened,
I like to
behind
say,
closed doors,
well, Hitler
go
was
on
a bad
to
guy,
Angel
but
Studios
he
is
had some
powered
good
by skilled
ideas.
members focusing on real stories. You can find out more at angel.com.
Not all of his good ideas. Not all his ideas were
Become a
good.
member, stream Thank You, Dr. Fauci, and be part of the conversation demanding truth and accountability. Okay, back with Nick Fuentes. Let's just turn to anti-Semitism. In your interview with Stephen Crowder last week, you answered emphatically that you don't hate all Jews. Is that correct? That's your position?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to play you this clip.
Well, I don't hate any Jews. Let me just amend that. I don't hate any Jews.
Okay. Let's play this clip.
The reason I've had it is because My opposition to world Jewry and Israel is rooted in absolute, uncontestable fact. We have the truth on our side. That's why we're winning. Because we are telling the truth about the historical antagonism between Jews and Europeans, between Jews and Christians. The theological, historical, racial, cultural, and political antagonisms between organized Jewry and the Christians, organized Jewry and Europeans. And the reason that we are winning that argument is because it's real, it's true. I can prove it, I can show you, I can name the names, I can show you the paper trail, the money. That is why we're winning. That is why all of this is raising the consciousness.
When you say you have this opposition to world Jewry, I mean, it's one thing to criticize, for example, the Israeli government over what it's been doing in Gaza. I've done that myself. When you talk about world Jewry, I presume you're talking about the 15 million Jews in the world, and
James
you are opposed to it. How does that square with your position that you don't hate any Jews?
There is no headlamp.
Well, do you take issue
But
with
it's
my use of the
daytime.
term world Jewry?
Well,
So
what do you mean
without
by that?
the pickaxe, daylight still
Do you take
manages to
issue
make
with
it
it? Do you
through
have a
here.
problem with that?
Clarify what you mean by it.
Oh.
Interesting though.
Well, it's funny you bring
You would
that
think
up.
it'd be dark,
The
but
gaslighting's
because
crazy
things don't
because I use that expression on my show all
load
the time.
in
I say
when you're far
organized
enough
Jewry,
away,
world Jewry, and
I could be at the
do you
very
know
bottom
that
of the
for
mine
like
shaft, look
30
up, and
years,
you see the sun.
the World
Oh, yeah.
Jewish Congress
It's
has
always
an
been that way,
annual
too.
keynote called the State of World Jewry. Barry Weiss has given it. You can look it up. It's on YouTube. She gives the State of World
But what do you
Jewry address.
mean? But Nick, what do you mean by it?
James the 2ND.
I mean, you have to talk about,
Minecraft has
you know,
more
there's a
realistic
concept of
lighting,
Jewish
LOL.
people. It's the sense that
Yeah, but
they
gravity
are
has no
part of a
effect on
common
the
nationality,
structural
a
integrity.
common tribe, a common people, and so where they reside in Israel, the United States, or Europe, or elsewhere, they see each other above, or maybe on a different level, alongside their nationality, their their state, wherever they reside. If they're in Germany, France, the United States, they see themselves as part of a transnational nation, of an international nation. The Jews in America, the Jews in Israel, they identify as Israeli or American, but they also have something in common. They identify
James
as part of a
the 2ND.
common nation, which I would
Yeah, that's
say there's
cause
a
it's a
world
cartoon
Jewish
game meant
population.
for
It's world
creativity
Jewry.
and fun, not a
And
realistic
world
survival
Jewry
game,
has
LOL.
representatives.
Yeah, fewer
There is
people
such a
or
thing
no
as the
people
World
complaining
Jewish
like on
Congress,
7 Days at Alex.
where they actually
They're
elect,
trying
it's
to
democratic.
modify their
All
base. They're
local
at the
Jewish
bottom. They
organizations
remove
elect
one block, the
representatives
wrong block.
to
The
represent
whole base comes
proportionally
crashing down.
the Jewish population in their area
Sorry.
at the World Jewish Congress.
Everyone has
And
to
it's
learn
sort of
that
like
lesson the
Davos.
hard
it's like
way.
the World Economic Forum, but it's exclusively for members of the
Or you
Jewish
can
nation
learn
that
it by
exists
watching
across
other
the
people
world.
do it and
And so
post it
that's
on
a
Reddit.
real thing, and I didn't make that up, and that didn't come from 4chan. It's like I said in that clip. I read what they write. I read their books. I watch these speeches. I watch a speech from Barry Weiss. I pay very close attention. So that's what I mean by that. There is such a thing as it's a nation that exists
James the
across
2ND.
borders on a global
Also, if
scale.
they want more
They're
realistic
organized,
Minecraft,
and
they
they
can
have
add mods or make their own
national
mods.
self-interest as that
True.
nation, as that tribe.
Same thing with this game.
So if you don't
I could,
hate any
well,
Jews, what
if
do
I
you
was on
like about
PC, yeah. I can add
I like a
mods,
lot of
make it
things
more
about them. I
realistic.
think they're funny. I think they're smart. I think that they're pretty remarkable
It's probably not a
people.
fix for the lighting.
And as Christians, especially as Catholics, we say they're remarkable. And this has been adjudicated in Catholic doctrine for thousands of years. We say that they're a witness people. And so we actually, there's provisions inside of Catholic doctrine that says we need to give them special protections because they were a witness to Christ's passion. So, this is why you can't clip the show. You have to watch the
They
whole thing.
witnessed
I say this
themselves
repeatedly
killing
in
him.
interviews. I do think they're remarkable. By definition, they're exceptional people. It's just that there is a sort of natural opposition between them and Christians because of the theology. We believe that Christ
James
is the
the
Messiah.
2ND.
They don't.
Doesn't the bedrock
They
look like lead in
have
this
been a
game or
minority
something?
in Christian lands for
It used
thousands of
to.
years. And
Used
they've
to
been
look like
pushed
a
around
rainbow
and
rock,
expelled, and they've
but
been
now it just
persecuted
looks
and
like rock.
segregated. And that's why there's a lot of paranoia. There's a lot of distrust.
just can't
there's
break
maybe
it, so-
some sense of chauvinism among Jewish people. So there is, like I said in that clip, there is an historical
Like when you're the
antagonism
trader
between
and you
these two peoples,
hit one of his
between
stuff,
Christendom
like
and
metallic
Jewry,
sound.
and that has always been the case in Europe. But I don't hate them, and I think I actually sort of understand them in a weird way. I think that because I've studied a lot of their politics, I think I really kind of know them in a way, and it doesn't come from a place of hatred.
Do you have any Jewish friends?
I do. I have many, yes.
But that's weird because you said this.
Jews and Christians have never been friends, ever. Not since Jesus Christ fought with the Pharisees.
Generally speaking.
Have we ever been friends? Not since Saul was leading the charge persecuting the Christians.
James the 2ND.
Not since the Roman
Maybe
Empire,
in the
not
near
since
future
the
we
Middle
can break
Ages.
the bedrock in real life.
Never. We've never been friends.
We
We've
can in
never
real
been
life.
allies. We've always been set against each other, actually. And even here in the United States, it was communist Jews who were the architects of both communism and the civil rights laws that are dispossessing white Christians of their land and civilization.
The Jews and Christians have never been friends ever, except for you and your Jewish friends.
Yeah, so easy. As peoples, as nations.
Got it.
Not saying every individual Christian, and of course there have been Christians and there have been Christian converts to Judaism, Jewish converts to Christian. You're nodding your head, but you're asking this. I'm saying as peoples, they've never been aligned.
As a Roman, I'm a Catholic like you, and I have
Oh,
many
James
Jewish friends. I'm just trying to compute
I've never met a
what you're
Jewish
trying to
person
say, which is
personally,
Jews and
LOL.
Christians have never been friends ever. And I'm
I know
like,
I have.
You have Jewish friends.
I may have had a Jewish
friends,
friend
we're
without
both
even knowing
Catholics,
it, though.
Therefore, we're Christians. It doesn't really quite add up.
Well, like I said, as peoples, there has been an historical antagonism as peoples. And you could even say the same about blacks in the United States. Of course, there were black and white people that were friendly with each other, but in many ways, they were set against each other as groups. And I think that's easy enough to understand.
The reason that many people think you're anti-Semitic is that you have regularly downplayed the Holocaust, and in particular the number of Jewish people who were murdered by the Nazis. It's been said that you believe no
James
more
the
than
2ND.
several hundred thousand.
I've had black friends,
have been
Colombian
killed, and
friends,
I'm gonna
and
play you
Russian
this clip.
friends, and German friends.
People talk about, well, you know, what about the gas chambers? Well,
Has
to
to be
the
those.
extent that that's real, I find that hard to believe.
I don't know,
But
I
to
never
the
asked
extent
them,
that's
are you
real,
Russian?
There have been atrocities
Are you
committed
German?
and genocides
Are you
committed
Jewish?
in all times and all
Who's friends with
places.
them?
Let's acknowledge why Hitler casts the long shadow. Because that confers a political benefit upon Jews. That's why.
It doesn't really sound correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies, and you have 15 ovens,
James the
probably in
2ND.
4 different kitchens,
I could
right?
tell they're Russian
Doing
or
24 hours a
Ukrainian
day,
cause
every
of
day
their
for 5
accent.
years. How long would it take?
Yeah, if they
you to
still
make
have the
6
accent.
million?
There's some who came here
I don't know.
really
It certainly
young.
wouldn't be 5 years, right?
not have
The
the
math doesn't
accent.
seem to add up there.
You think that's funny?
It's funny. It's amusing what you're doing because
Like, Juan's our Mexican
you know, that one
friend,
was a
but
joke.
he
But do you
wasn't
wanna
born
talk
in
seriously
Mexico.
about the
Do you think?
Holocaust?
Yeah, I
We
do
can talk
actually.
Mexican
I
blood.
do because I just find it
He sounds
extraordinary that you would
American.
think the Holocaust could ever be something that we could joke about.
Why, too soon? Is it too soon to make jokes?
How many people do you think died in the Holocaust? How many Jewish people?
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe 7 million. What's the number? 7, 6 million, something like that.
So you
8 million?
you concede that 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust?
James the
Possibly more.
2ND.
Possibly,
Do
well,
you
know, we're
think
discovering
Juan
all
cares
the
that
time.
I'm making fun of
so it could
Mexicans?
maybe even be more than that.
LOL.
Nah,
Why
he's
have
got a
you-
good
why
sense
have you
of
doubted
humor.
the numbers in the past?
I'll tell you why. I really think that every death is a tragedy, however many Jewish
Gotta
people
get
died
back
in the
out of this.
Holocaust. And I'm not a World War II historian, so I'm actually open to believing the official narrative, and I've read some of the conspiracy theories. And
James
to tell
the
you the
2ND.
truth, it's a rigorous
Also, he
debate.
probably knows
But
I'm
you know
kidding
what's
most of the
interesting
time.
about this
Oh, yeah.
is in many countries it's not even
Most
legal
of the time.
to talk about it. And that's really where my interest in the Holocaust begins and sort of ends, to tell you the truth, is that if you wanted to question the number, you would be put in jail in about
I hope
what
this is
is it,
going towards the
17
rest
or
of the
18
night.
European countries. And I think that's really the more interesting conversation, which is that this is almost like a religious dogma in the West. No other genocide, no other atrocity is treated like this. Could you imagine if in the United States they said the number of Palestinians killed in Gaza is 100,000, and if you don't say that, you're going to jail, you're banned on X, you
James
can't have a
the
job?
2MD.
That's the
Is
part
there
that's
lava
totally
in this
insane.
game?
And a lot of people, they can't even make up their minds. I think it's actually
Not at
done a
all.
disservice. If your goal, and I'm not saying you as Piers Morgan, but if your goal, if you're an advocate for awareness about this, if your goal is to convince everybody that this is the way the Holocaust happened, I think the last thing you'd want to do is say that everyone that disagrees is in jail and is banned and you're not allowed to say it. So there's really been no open debate about the subject since the scholarship started to be produced about 60 years ago.
There is no debate to be had about the number of people who were murdered. Even the Nazis, in the trials after the war confirmed the numbers. The amount of documentation that was recovered, notwithstanding the attempts by the Nazis to destroy it, the amount of documentation that was saved and preserved and used for trials and historical record is unprecedented in the history of mass slaughter of human beings. So we have a very clear idea of how many people were gassed to death in the gas chambers. We have a very clear idea of how many were starved to death, were kept in ghettos, died of disease, of forced labor, of death marches. We know how many Jews were slaughtered. It's at least 6 million. What's interesting to me is that you appear to now concede that, which may be news to a lot of your regular viewers who have constantly heard you quibble with the number of Jews who died in the Holocaust. And for the record, just to confirm what I think you told me, you do now accept that at least 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust.
Well, no, I said it could be. It could even be higher than that.
Well, it could be higher. That is
I think
true.
it's at least.
But you
I think you're
accept
right.
at least.
It is at least. Oh, it's at least 6 million. But
Okay.
it could be 100
Well,
times
people
more
are
than
going to be
that.
okay. But people are going to be.
Let me respond to your. Let me respond to the rest of your question.
Sure.
What you're saying, I understand where you're coming from when you say it has been documented and there are confessions and so on. Let that speak for itself. But you don't see, your show is called Piers Morgan Uncensored.
Yep.
But the United Kingdom is censored and Europe is censored. And if you talk about these things, you will be put in jail in many countries. And I think that's where a lot of people start to say, well, if the truth is so clear and if there's such overwhelming evidence, why do you need to throw people in jail for disagreeing? And you yourself said, well, there is no debate. I think everything is debatable. I think everything at least should be debated. And if the evidence is very one-sided, let the evidence speak. Don't throw people in jail. So do you think that Holocaust denial laws should be overturned?
I don't particularly agree with Holocaust denial laws. I don't think people should be imprisoned.
Okay.
Well, because I have a blanket view now, which has evolved slightly actually over the years, that I have a blanket view that speech should not be criminalized, right? People should be allowed to say what they want to say, and they should be then made accountable for what they say. If you have an employer, they can make a view about whether you are the right kind of person they want for their employment, as they would make a decision about anything else you do in life. So I actually believe that speech should never be criminalized, is my personal view. I understand why in places like Germany, they have strong laws about it because they want to move on from what they believe was the most shameful moment in their history. I understand that. Do I want that in my country? No. Am I appalled by what has been going on with free speech in the United Kingdom in the last 2 or 3 years? Absolutely. It is ridiculous that people have been frog-marched to prison cells for stuff they put on social media.
Don't get more lead.
So, yeah, I do. I think what is more interesting to me about our exchange is I was not expecting
that call went
to go the
forever.
opposite way.
In fact,
I was not expecting you to
probably
be so
more.
emphatic that at least
Just
6 million
little sliver of it.
died on the
Probably
Holocaust.
not worth
There will be
messing
people
with at the
watching
moment.
this who I think will be
I
very
really
surprised
need
by
it.
that,
I might
because
try
you have
again.
built a reputation for being,
But I got
if not a
enough for now.
Holocaust denier, but somebody constantly questioning in a downward way the number of Jews who were murdered.
I can go ahead
That
and
doesn't
delete
appear to be what your position is now.
that.
No, and here's what I would like to see for my entire career. when I started my show, it started with a good faith inquiry where I was questioning a lot of these narratives. And I said, what is the answer on the other side? But what I found is that the answer was criminalized. So when you would talk about anything regarding Jews, Israel, the Holocaust, you could be in favor of the official narrative on those things. If you went against, you were banned, censored, and in some countries jailed. And so I actually haven't made up my mind on that because that's not really a matter of interest to me. And there's a lot of analysis and scholarship on both sides of the issue. And I've read both sides of the issue. And honestly, unfortunately, it's hard to judge because there has never been a debate on it. And there's never been a debate because of the stigma, because of the censorship. And I think that leads a lot of people to say, well, what do they have to hide? Because you can say on your show, well, I'm personally against Holocaust denial laws, yet they still persist and the social consequences still persist. And I think that that is the anomaly. And people have to wonder, okay, why is it that way? And what I said in that clip is the reason the Holocaust casts a long shadow is because it confers a political benefit upon organized Jewry. That is what they always fall back on. They cannot be criticized, they cannot be named, they cannot be talked about, lest there be another Holocaust. And no other tragedy is treated that way, and no other ethnic group has a get-out-of-jail-free card. Just play that, anti-Semitism and Holocaust, you can do whatever you want and defend all your actions. That's the part that people are getting upset with. That's the problem.
I don't know any right-minded person who believes that Jewish people weaponized the Holocaust for their own personal get-out-of-jail-free or whatever you called it.
You don't know anyone that does that? That believes that?
I'm sure there are some people that do that, but it's such a ridiculous generalization. You know, the truth is that most Jewish people have lost relatives in the Holocaust. In fact, I want to play you two clips. One is where you talk about Adolf Hitler.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really fucking cool. So, you know, time to grow up. We're not children anymore. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right, boys? Am I right? Let's go. He was also really fucking cool.
You regret saying that?
Making some bullets.
Saying a fact? No, that's absolutely true.
You think Hitler was very fucking cool?
Yes, I do.
One of them.
And I'm tired of pretending he's not.
Well,
to be honest.
This is the problem, you see. It's a bit like when you just say, I'm a racist. You're a racist who thinks Hitler's cool, but you're not anti-Semitic. If you're a Jewish person watching this, what are they thinking? I'll tell you what they're thinking, because I've got a friend of mine called Danny Finkelstein, who, when he heard I was interviewing you, he's a Times journalist in the UK, very eminent journalist here, and author, who wrote a book about his own family's experiences at the hands of Hitler and Stalin, because he also told Tucker Carlson that you admire Stalin. But let's just take what Danny said here.
Hi Piers, it's Danny Finkelstein here. As you're interviewing Nick Fuentes, you might try suggesting to him that he reads my book, Hitler, Stalin, Mum and Dad. It's called Two Roads Home in the United States. Since he says he's on Team Hitler, you might like to ask him about the fact that Hitler arrested my mum, tried to starve my mum to death, did starve my grandmother to death.
I can make more gunpowder.
Sent my great aunt to the gas chamber, my great uncle, my cousin. My grandmother on my father's side ended up being one out of 7 children, the only one that survived the war. So you might ask him whether he wouldn't rather be on Team Mum rather than Team Hitler. And as for celebrating Stalin's birthday, well, Stalin took my father, sent him to a state collective farm, sent my grandmother and to a state collective farm, sent my grandfather to the Gulag. You might try asking him why he doesn't celebrate Dad's birthday rather than Stalin's. It may all be a big joke to him, but he complains that he was 18 when someone tried to cancel him. Well, Stalin and Hitler arrested my mum and my dad when they were 10 years old. So perhaps he might like to reconsider his joke.
See, that's the reality of your jokes, although I haven't ascertained yet whether you are joking when you say that Hitler
all my
was very
nitrates.
fucking cool. Are you joking,
I'll need
or
more
do you
nitrates
actually
now.
think he was very fucking cool? The most
He was
genocidal
cool.
monster of the last 150 years?
Yeah, the thing is, my generation, we're just done with the pearl clutching. You know,
yeah, you might be, but then your generation hasn't gone through what Danny Finkelstein's family went through. So maybe the pearl clutching has a way to go for families whose family members
were murdered. This person who was in prison and he killed a person who molested a child in the prison and he used his tattoo gun to tattoo Katie's revenge on the dude's forehead and the judge asked him if he regrets it and he said no. Then the judge asked him if he regrets the judge the dude and he said that it's not his place to judge him. They just set up the appointment for him.
That's fine. You don't have to care. But he does care.
Does that guy care about America? Does that guy care about me and my country and my family? No.
He cares what you, a prominent conservative in America, has to say about Adolf Hitler. And what do you mean by Hitler is very fucking cool? Because I think he's very fucking a monster.
I have some extra. All right, that was cool.
And that's a clip.
Oh.
I think he's very fucking a
monster.
monster. Do you hear yourself?
Yeah,
I mean, can we all grow up?
Can we all grow up? He murdered 12 million people. He murdered 12 million people. What is very fucking cool about that? Tell me.
I think I sent it in the Discord.
The edits, it's just cool. The uniforms, the parades, it's cool as a guy. You look at World War II, and it's fascinating, and it's interesting, and it's compelling, and it's cool. And you know, we're just tired of saying these kinds of things. We want to talk like real people and give our honest opinions. And then we literally get an old Jewish guy from England who's going to say, "Oh, that's not very funny, mate. Me mom," and it's like, shut up, like. You know, no one is in favor of genocide, so let's just get that out of the way. We're not in favor of a Holocaust or genocide.
You think if half your family you think if half your family had been wiped
out by
very fucking cool
I'll try to find it again, BRB.
Very fucking cool. Okay. Or would you think that actually he was a despicable monster who murdered 12 million people, who targeted people because they were disabled or Jewish or Romani Gypsy or whatever it may be? And that he systematically destroyed people, incinerated them in gas chambers. Do you think that you would find it very fucking cool if your family had been through that? Or do you think you would find it very fucking disgusting? And perhaps moderate the number of times you laugh about it, or want to joke about it, or want to abuse someone like Danny Finkelstein, who's written incredibly powerful books about what happened to his extended family at the hands of the Nazis and your other hero, Stalin. See, my point to you, Nick Fuentes, is that in parts of this interview, you try to come across as moderate, but every now and again the mask slips, and it slipped again here with what you say about Hitler. There's nothing very fucking cool about Hitler. We know that from history now. We know what he did. You've already conceded that he murdered at least 6 million Jews. So when you say he's very fucking cool, Jewish people watch this and go, this guy's disgusting. Why would he say this about someone who perpetrated such an evil? And what's the real answer? Why do you? Is it just for clicks? Is it for money? Is it just for fun? For shits and giggles? What is it? What motivates you to say something like Hitler was very fucking cool?
It's for this. It's for all of this. And the lack of self-awareness is amazing. You're a boomer. You're a 60-year-old boomer, and we spent maybe 3 minutes on you saying he's a really fucking monster. He incinerated people. And I'm sitting here saying it's not that serious. It's not that deep. And
not that
what
serious.
I'm getting at.
Not that serious.
Do you want to say more about he's a monster?
You're not a kid yourself anymore. You're not a teenager.
I know.
Right? You're nearly 30, to be clear.
Yeah,
okay? You're a fully formed adult who has a brain, right? And at some stage, that brain is taking you off these rabbit
rods. Is this an
rods.
interview or is this a lecture? Can I respond to what you're saying?
I want you to explain why you think it's fine to say how fucking cool Hitler is and to dismiss the very powerful 90 seconds from a British journalist who lost a lot of family members to the Nazis in such a callous, dismissive manner.
I don't think it's powerful. I think we've been hearing that our entire lives, okay? The Schindler's List. Let's just be honest. The propaganda is over the top. We have been brought in America.
What about the Schindler's List? Tell me about the Schindler's List. Well, tell me about the Schindler's List.
I'll tell you about it. We have been browbeaten as a people, as Americans, as Westerners, for our entire lives. And do you know what this has done? It has taken away any sense of pride, any sense of love for our own civilization. We have been made the villain in our own story. We have been made because, well, let's just be clear. It doesn't begin and end with Hitler is a monster. This has been the political narrative, which is why we have thrown open the borders. This is a political narrative, which is why we can't be a conservative society as a whole anymore, why we can't be proud of Europeans, why we can't be proud of being Christian, because they've told us if you're too white and too proud and too Christian, it's going to lead to a Holocaust. And so my generation, our entire lives, has seen, wait,
honestly, Nick
it's true, and that's why people like me. That's why I'm popular, because this is bullshit.
Honestly,
yeah, it's a crock. We don't want to hear any more about me mom and me dad. That's a crock of shit.
No, listen. What you just said is a crock of shit. And you
it's
know
true.
it.
It's called the open society.
In your gut, you know it is. You weaponize this stuff.
You know.
You weaponize this stuff for money, but you know when you say something like what you just said.
I'm banned from banking. I'm banned from banking and credit cards. You know who you're talking to?
Yeah,
I do it for money.
And by the way,
how much money you make? Your company's worth $100 million. Your company's worth $100 million. I was banned from Bank of America.
And you shouldn't
I'm
have
banned
been.
from processing credit cards.
And you shouldn't have been.
But I am. So don't tell me I'm doing it for money.
Well, ask me my opinion about that. I'll tell you shouldn't have been. Right? I don't agree with that. What happened to you?
Then don't say I'm doing it for money, because you know that full well, and you say it's a grift.
How much money
if I wanted to be a grifter, I'd be like you.
How much money are you making?
I'm making a lot of money now.
Yeah.
Now that I'm the #1 live streamer in America, because people agree with me more than they agree with you. We're tired of hearing about slavery and the Holocaust and Jim Crow. We're done hearing about that. You guys overplayed your hand.
I'm not done hearing about that.
James de 2ND.
Okay, well, you know, your generation's on the way out, and Generation Z is coming up, and we're finished with that. We're ready to take our country back.
I've got three
we're
sons.
not listening to crime minorities anymore.
I've got 3 sons, and they don't share your views about slavery and about the Holocaust. They can have decency and compassion and humanity about some of the worst things that have happened in the last 150 years or more. They can do that, and they can also have concerned views about issues like immigration and other issues. The two things are not mutually incompatible.
Deserved it.
You can have different views about different things. It's your lack of humanity and compassion for people about things like the Holocaust, about slavery. It's that people find so contemptible. And I don't understand why you need to do that. Again, I just ask you, is your motivation financial? Is your motivation for fun? What is the motivation for saying these outlandish things, which you don't need to say, and which I suspect, I don't know. I suspect a lot of it is
Well, I'm gonna go now.
So what is the motivation?
All right.
I'm an iconoclast. The Holocaust is not my religion, and it is treated like a religion. It is treated like a religion with dogma, with blasphemy laws, and that secular religion says, and you say that's a crock of shit. It's intentional. It's called The Open Society by Karl Popper. It's by these architects of the liberal order after World War II. They got together and they said, how can we make sure that Hitler never happens? How can we make sure that totalitarianism never happens again? And they came up with the consensus, which is that we need to take down nations, religions, fathers, the authoritarian personality. We need to be empathetic and altruistic. We need to be diverse and pluralistic. And that experiment isn't working. And I'll tell you the truth, right now, and you can laugh at this, you can scoff at this, our people are being genocided in our country. 50% of the live births in the United Kingdom and in the United States are non-white. In 100 years, my ancestors, your kids who are so empathetic and compassionate, they're going to be a minority. They're going to be a minority in maybe a Muslim country, an Indian country, an Hispanic country, and these Jewish people that are 100 years old talking about my grandparents and the Holocaust, they don't care about that. Actually, they like to see it. At the SPLC, they're literally counting down the days until whites are a minority in America. So forgive me if I don't believe them when they talk about compassion. There's a genocide going on right now. It's not against the Jews.
How many Christians are there?
How
many Christians are there in the world? Like me.
1 point some billion.
Yeah,
2 billion.
How many Jews are there?
15 million.
Okay. So with a straight face, you're going to tell me the world is being overrun by the Jewry, by 15 million people, when there are over 1 billion Christians. There is a genocide of Christians like poor old Nick Fuentes going on at the hands of these 15 million Jews. Really?
See, this attitude is why you're losing. When you say
who am I losing to?
White people,
who am I losing to?
White people.
Who am I losing to?
You're seeing it. Mass migration. Oh, you're losing to me. We are losing as a civilization of mass migration. And here's the difference. In Israel, They have my politics. In Israel, they want to maintain a Jewish majority. If they had it their way, it would only be Jewish people. They're fighting like hell so that Jewish people can have as much territory, a Jewish state. They can be proudly Jewish in their own land. Whereas in America, we are being besieged by 10 million illegal immigrants in 4 years. And then whites and Christians are going to be the minority. And that's true in Canada, Australia, all the countries in Europe. So you could say there's 2 billion people, but what's the proportionality? What is the percentage of people being born that are white? Where's the arrow pointing? Where are we going to be in 50 years? In 50 years, there might be an Israel. In 50 years, there isn't going to be a white Christendom.
You don't believe people should get married, right?
I think people should get married. I'm a Christian.
But you're basically anti-marriage, really. You've talked about this. You've talked about.
Are we done talking about white genocide?
Well, no, I'm coming to the same part because you seem very resistant to the idea of marriage. You've never got married. You've talked very scathingly about henpecked husbands. Just take a look.
That's true.
Guys get to a certain age and they're like, you know what? Women suck. Like, they're talking too much. They're not hot anymore. Like, you're fat, you're chubby, you're not as hot as you think you are. You fucking talk too much, you're a bitch.
Oops.
So we'll obviously get to the brazen misogyny part of that a little later. But I'm just curious. On the one hand, there's this terrible genocide going on of white people. On the other hand, you want people effectively to stop going near women because they all turn out to be so ghastly. So they shouldn't presumably procreate. So how does that work? I mean, aren't you, with your rhetoric, actively encouraging men not to associate with these ghastly women, therefore not have any more children? Therefore, you are contributing, Nick Fuentes, to the diminishing white population. I'm confused.
I tell my followers to get married all the
Easy to
time.
confuse
I
Pierce.
tell them that it's best for everybody to get married. And I think that's the only way that you can have sex. I think that's the only licit way as a Catholic, as you know, to have sex is within marriage.
Why don't you get married?
I'll get married later. It's been difficult for me because people are shooting at me at my house. I don't know that I don't want to have kids and a wife. You know, my wife would be screaming about that. Me, you know, I have to be able to take risks and be able to say these things. It's difficult to bring a family into a life that's like that. But for my followers, I tell them to get married. But what's happening with women...
You literally just told your followers... Well, hang on. In that clip, you literally told followers, women, they get old, they get fat, they get ugly, they get very annoying. So where's the incentive to get married to women? There isn't one. You're actively telling them the opposite.
You're extrapolating a lot.
Just
We can complain.
Just pointing you back yourself again.
No, but you're extrapolating and saying, well, you say women are annoying, so therefore, what's the incentive? We have to do it in spite of the fact that they are annoying. We have to do it in spite of the fact that they talk too much. We can get them to lose weight. We can put them on peptides. We can get them to the promised land. But it's going to be...
Do you think this view of women may be why none of them want to go near you?
Oh, you should see my DMs. It was quite the opposite. They're called the Groy Bets, and I'm actually batting them away. Granted, not all of them are attractive. Some of them are attractive.
Are you actually, just to clear up one of the many theories about you, I've no idea what the answer is and you haven't got to answer, but are you actually attracted to women?
I am attracted to women.
You're not gay?
No. But I will say that women are very difficult to be around.
Okay.
So... there's that.
And do you think they should have the right to vote?
I do not. No, absolutely not.
They should stay at home?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So basically, you're just a misogynist old dinosaur, aren't you? For a young guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm the boomer. I know I'm the boomer here.
Is that the term?
But actually, you're a 27-year-old
old
dinosaur, aren't you? Aren't you, Nick Fuentes? All women.
I am.
All women are annoying. All women grow old. They all get fat. Says the guy, have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow, says the guy who's never got laid.
That's the thing, though. You boomers, it's always,
you think you're an expert
laid,
in women,
free love.
given you've never got laid?
Yeah, we are going back to the Stone Age. You're absolutely right. This, you know, you're talking about empathy and your kids are empathetic and they would never laugh at a joke about the Holocaust and you're a misogynist. You're a simp yourself. You're totally henpecked. That's the problem. So we are going back to the way
Let me play another clip of yours about women.
A lot of women want to be raped. And when I say raped, I mean like that sounds
They
bad
bought
when I say
'em.
it like that. But there's like a lot of women that really want a guy to beat the shit out of them. But also they have to pretend, but part of it is they have to pretend like they don't.
You think women want to be raped, do you?
That's what the studies show, Piers. That is what these statistics say.
But that's what you believe,
They
is
have
it?
fantasies. They have fantasies about it. I don't think that they want to actually get raped. But there's a study out there. Get ready for this. It says 62% of women have rape fantasies. And if you read anything that they're reading, if you watch what they're watching, what do you think 50 Shades of Grey is about? What do you think Twilight is about? I mean, that's just true.
You think women want to have the shit beaten out of them, as you said?
Yeah, and it's very disturbing, but it's true.
Do you think your views on women might change if you actually ever had a relationship with one or had sex and actually had a proper relationship? I mean, people say the reason you're so angry about women is you're basically an incel.
I'm not angry about it.
You sound very angry. You sound very, very angry about women. They get
passionate. It's an issue
You're
I'm
not passionate.
passionate about.
You're sounding very bitter about women, as if women have done a terrible disservice to you. But when you don't have relationships, you don't have sex, when are they doing these terrible things to you that's made you so hateful towards women? I'm really curious.
Was that? I don't think that was a hateful clip. I think I was laughing. I said they want men to beat the shit out of them, and that's just true. I mean, when you look at the state of modern women, all they do is lay in their bed, doom scroll. They're chilling out. They're getting a little they're getting a little fat. It is what it is. I don't know what the average weight is, but they're getting a little heavy. And any guy that is playing the field these days will tell you that. I mean, and I know a lot of the Chads. I am an incel. I'm friends with a lot of Chads like Bradley Martin, Clavicular. They agree with me. You know, there's sort of like this alliance between the guys that don't have sex and the guys that get the most sex. We know what women are about. It's the guys in the middle. Guys like you in the middle. It's the beta male orbiters that say, she's amazing, you're a misogynistic pig. Because I don't know what that is. I guess
well, come on, let me explain to you what I think. I think when a 27-year-old guy who's never got laid, never had a meaningful relationship with a woman, says that women shouldn't be allowed to vote, they should stay at home, that all they do is fantasize about being raped and being beaten up, that's what they want, that they're annoying, that they get fat, that they get ugly. That's a misogynist. Now, you may not understand it because your knowledge of women is so incredibly tiny, but actually, you are the embodiment of a misogynist. It couldn't be clearer. And if I was in a way, you have the deep-rooted misogyny of some of the actual boomers I know. Yet here you are, 27 years old, and most of the current studies show that a lot of men are really disenfranchised from society, no longer have physical relationships with women if they've ever had them.
There's another one.
Never associate with women and build up instinctively misogynist views about women. And I fear you're in that position. You're just a bit of a lonely guy.
I'm glad I'm got him up here. How many turds am I over that day?
And it's made you bitter about women. And I don't know where that's come from, but it's fascinating.
No, see, here's the thing. First of all, you're very caught up in the labels. It's always, you're a racist, you're a misogynist.
You said you were a racist.
These words mean nothing to me. Well, hang on. Whoa, can I respond?
You gave yourself the label.
What is this?
You said, I am a racist. I didn't give you the label.
Okay.
You said, Nick Fuentes, I am a racist.
Calm down. Calm down.
Did you or didn't you?
It's okay.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
so
here's
I didn't give you the label. You did.
Why are you yelling at me?
Because you're trying to infer something that didn't happen. You said, I gave you the label of being a racist. No, you did. You said, I'm a racist. You gave yourself a label.
Start off with it.
You're gonna have to tone it down a little, all right? You're gonna have to bring it down a notch and relax. This is just an interview, okay? Please calm down. All I said is you're hung up. I didn't say you gave me that. Maybe I did.
You did.
But here's what I mean. What I mean is you're just hung up on proving you're a misogynist. Okay, you're a racist. Okay, you denied the Holocaust, and I'm not about the labels,
man. You didn't deny the Holocaust.
Past that.
As I said to you, look, Nick, as I said to you, I just wanted to go over the stuff that you know everyone uses out there about you and get you to respond. And we are getting, I think, a long way in this interview. Right?
Okay.
You didn't deny the Holocaust. You accepted there's been a Holocaust of at least 6 million Jews.
I'm a maximalist. I'm a Holocaust.
That is significant.
I think it's more.
You did admit you're a racist, and you have spelled out a thought process about women, which is the purest definition of misogyny that I've ever seen. And you said you're not gay.
Juanito
We're
Beans.
getting somewhere.
Great idea.
Yeah. Well, look, and I own the labels, okay? But I just
Really?
don't care that much about them.
That's fine.
I feel like the whole...
I'm not saying
Did I
you
say it was a great idea?
I'm not saying you have to care, Nick. You don't have to care about any
Be a
of it. I
maximalist.
promise you. Right, that's not why I got you on the show. I wanted to give you a fair crack, which I think I have. We've gone over a lot of stuff. We've got a bit more to go on. I genuinely don't think I've ambushed you with anything you couldn't have been expecting.
No.
I don't think I've been overtly hostile. In fact, when you've asked me to calm down. I don't want to have a hostile, angry, shouty match with you. I simply want you to spell out exactly what you've meant about all these things, and people can then be the judge of it. So let's take another break, and we'll come back and talk about Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and others. Christmas is peak time for online shopping sprees, but that also means it's peak time for hackers and data brokers who steal your information online. The solution is very simple. Use ExpressVPN to shut them down. Top-tier encryption keeps your activity hidden, even on dodgy public Wi-Fi, which is perfect for holiday travel. You can set your location to 105 different countries, which lets you access content from all over the world. Users save hundreds on streaming and even plane tickets with ExpressVPN, all for $3.49 a month. It's a no-brainer. I use it, and you should too. Right now, you can get an extra 4 months of ExpressVPN if you go to expressvpn.com/peers. That's ExpressVPN's lowest price ever, plus 4 extra months of service. Just scan the QR code on the screen or go to expressvpn.com/peers. Okay, back with Nick Fuentes. You began your show in 2017, the same year as Trump was inaugurated for his first term in office. You supported him at that time, but you've grown increasingly disillusioned, I think it'd be fair to say. Let's play a recent clip from you about Trump.
We played this game in the first term. We're 10 years in. And you still have these people, I hate to say it, but they're just like in denial. And they're like, okay, everybody, let's all go on Twitter and let's tell Trump, don't screw over your voters.
Juanito Beans.
Okay.
These clips
Hey,
have
Trump,
been so bad.
don't hire John Radcliffe in the CIA. Like,
Okay.
what are we doing? We lost. It's over. The time to make demands was during the election when he needed the votes. He's a lame duck president. He doesn't need
Juanito
anything
Beans.
from us. He's not even
He
on
says some
Twitter.
stupid
He's
shit.
on Truth Social. So what are you talking about?
I think
We're
Pierce
gonna
says
all
more stupid
rally
shit
and
than
tell
Nick
him,
does.
Don't hire yet another
Maybe I like him
neocon?
more than you do.
Now, over the weekend, you posted this on X. You said performative cruelty is the perfect
There's some
way
things
to
he says I don't
characterize
agree
Trump
with, but
admin
that's
and the
true
mood
for
of the MAGA
everybody.
movement. In order to compensate for his compromises and failures,
Juanito
Trump
Beans.
has to fall back on
Just like
mean-spiritedness
Tate.
to appeal to the basest
No,
instincts
not
of
just
his
like
followers.
Tate.
It's really sad.
There-
I mean, do you
there's
think
some
you're the
major
best
difference
person,
between them.
Fuentes, to lecture people about performative cruelty?
Why, are you accusing me of being cruel? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
How am I cruel?
You're cruel about black people. You're cruel about women. I mean, you're cruel about a lot of people, and you're very performative.
Okay. I don't think I'm performative. If anything, everyone else is performative. I'm authentic. You know, whatever you want to say about me, it's real. It's from the gut. But yes, I do think it's performative. And what I mean by that is, you know, when they're doing the deportations, they know the deportations are not where the base wants them to be. They deported, the figures are disputed, but from my data, it's 300,000 in the year, which is not a massive deportation. They know the base is unhappy with that. So what do? The deportations that they are carrying out, they do a big spectacle and they arrest everybody and they film it and they put a hype at it, and there's a meanness in there. They played that song, I think from Sabrina Carpenter or something, and they make it a joke, they make it glib, and they do that because they're not delivering on the promise, so they compensate by doing it meaner, edgier, more mean-spirited, so that the base will overlook the fact that it's not happening. And I think that's by definition performative cruelty. You can call me a hypocrite, but it's definitely true about what they're doing in the administration.
You went to see Trump at Mar-a-Lago with Ye. for dinner. What was that like?
It was very interesting. They're my two heroes. Ye is my hero. Trump is my hero. Even though he's very disappointing, he's still a personal hero of mine. And he's a remarkable person. It was a great conversation. We got along pretty well. He liked me. I liked him. It was a love fest.
I mean, he got attacked afterwards for supping with the white supremacist devil. I mean, do you accept you are a white supremacist?
No, absolutely not.
You don't think white people are superior to black people?
No, I'm a Christian, so I believe everybody is equal before God.
Including women?
Yes.
So you give women equal rights then?
No.
Great.
No.
Great. Okay, so you just talked a lot of bullshit, didn't you?
No. Why are you like mad about this? No.
You want women to be treated equally before God, but you don't want to give them equal rights.
Yeah, because women are different.
Look, it's your view. It's your view.
Do you think there's two genders?
I do think there are two genders, yes.
Okay, and so you mean there's distinction. There are two distinct genders.
I think we should all have the same rights to...
Well, if they're meaningfully distinct, biologically distinct, and they have different social and biological roles, I think it would follow that we would treat them a little bit differently in the law.
Do you think the Catholic Church's teachings reflect that?
I do. Yeah, there's no female priests. Have you ever seen that?
Do you think that the Catholic Church thinks all women should be deprived of the vote?
Yeah, I think so.
No, they don't.
I think they do, yeah.
You think the Catholic Church position is women shouldn't be allowed to vote?
I think so, yeah,
No.
but I'm not positive.
No, it's bullshit.
Oh, it should be.
It should be. So if you were Pope, that's what you do. You could be Pope because you're celibate.
That's true.
Oh, yes.
And I'm also from Chicago, like the Pope. But look, I mean, women, it says in the Bible that women have no authority over men, and they can't teach men, and that's why there's no female priests.
There's a lot of things in the Bible.
Catholic...
I mean, do you think
Oh,
every
pick it
word
up.
of the Bible is sacrosanct?
Pope name, I guess.
Juanito B.
Well, yeah, it's inspired scripture.
He says it should be.
That's all of it is
this now
all of it is
Should be
sacrosanct.
what?
theological debate. Well, it is Catholic doctrine that women should not lead and teach. I mean, you're not interacting with what I'm saying. Why can't women be priests?
They should be.
Okay, well, you're not Catholic. That's not a Catholic
I am a
position.
Catholic. Many things I disagree with the Catholic Church.
Okay. Well, that kind of is contrary because the whole basis
really?
of being Catholic is accepting. It's accepting the authority of the pontiff.
You can be a member of a religion and disagree with parts of that religion. Perfectly reasonable.
You could be, well, yeah, I mean, you could say
Unless you're an
that, but it wouldn't
extremist.
be true.
If you're an extremist, you can't.
Okay.
Obviously, you never deviate.
That's just not rigorous.
You never
That's just
deviate if
sloppy.
you're an extremist. But even the Constitution,
sloppy.
even the Constitution's been amended. Was it 27 times? People talk about this
28.
sacrosanct document. It's like it's been amended 27 times.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my, this is not rigorous intellectually. This is very,
Just
this is
a statement of
tabloid
fact.
theology. Okay, but it's fine. Where were we? We were talking about Trump, and somehow we got
on
into
Trump.
you're
Look,
white
on
knighting
Trump-
for women's rights.
On Trump, well, I think women should have the same rights as you and I. You don't. That's fine.
Put on the pink hat, bro. Put on the pink hat. We're waiting.
What's the pink hat for?
For the march, for the women's march. Are we going to see you at the women's march, protesting for women's rights and all that?
I think women should have equal rights to men. Period.
You carry tampons in case your female friends get a period or something? Like, it's crazy.
I'd
White knighting is
have no problem
diabolical.
giving a female friend a tampon, would you? I don't suppose you've ever seen a tampon.
I wouldn't have them in my
Gross.
pocket.
Absolutely not.
You
Get
think,
that away
you think
from me.
tampons are gross?
Yeah, they're
Really?
filled with period blood. Yeah, it's kind of gross.
Wow.
Are you into that? You like that?
Have you ever
got
seen
a lot of tampons?
I don't think you've ever seen it, have you?
I've seen them. I've
Oh,
seen
you
them
have?
before.
You've been that close
Yeah.
to a woman? Really?
No, I've seen them. Look, I
Oh, you've
you
seen
know, I
videos?
Living on the shelf in
I
the
bet
store.
you've
seen them around the
I bet
house.
you've seen videos, haven't you?
Oh, that.
What?
You've got a mother.
What are we doing here, Piers?
I'm not
you
sure.
really hate that.
I'm not sure,
You're
mate.
more impressed that
Juanito
I'm a
Bean.
misogynist than you
He's
are
very
about
into
anything.
it
It's
for a
Not
very
really.
27-year-old.
I'm actually more exercised about your blatant, self-admitted
I
racism.
don't know. There's a lot of
than
things
I'm
he says that I
about
wouldn't
anything.
expect.
But the misogyny runs a close
27-year-old
second.
Or maybe I
Let me
really
ask you
could
about
as
Tucker Carlson,
27-year-old
because you had a
say.
long sit down with Tucker Carlson, in which he was. I
think most people
I
are
like Tucker.
my
I
age
was
or-
with him last week in London. But
Some
he
people
gave
my age
me
are
a
even
harder
more,
time than he gives
more
you.
immature than he used to be.
And then afterwards, he was more critical. And then you said this about Tucker.
Fuck.
He's a handler. He handles people. That's what he does.
He's the latter still.
He's a fucking liar and a handler. He goes around telling people, I don't know
make it
anything.
weird.
I don't know. Oh, I know nothing. I don't even have a phone. I am just a clueless tourist. I just travel to all these countries and, you know, I don't trust him. And I don't care, you know, maybe that alienates me from people in the conservative movement. I don't care. I'm not going to be a part of it. I'm not going to be a party to whatever that is. Whatever that CIA bullshit is, I'm not going to be a part of it. So, you know, now that I've heard enough from Tucker and I've heard enough from other people and I've seen enough, this guy's not who he says he is. Not an ally. Stay the fuck away from me. You're weird, dude. You're weird.
What are you talking
what
about?
would have been great is if you'd said that to him when you were sitting opposite him.
Ian Carroll, maybe? That's
Well,
one thing I
sitting
disagree with
opposite
Nick about.
him at the dinner and in the interview, he was nothing but nice.
Donald Trump.
He was very nice to me and very cordial, and he didn't call me an anti-Semite, and he didn't even press me on it at all. And I
Or
thought
Tucker.
he would, and I almost wanted him to. He was nothing but nice, and we had a great time. We had a really great dinner, really great interview, and I felt really good about it. And the next week on my show, I said, he really surprised me. He's great. And then every interview he's done since, all he does is call me an anti-Semite. He goes, well, I hate his anti-Semitism, and, you know, I wonder why people like him. And so I just think that's two-faced. So after that experience, it kind of turned me off. I didn't like that, but he's going to do what he's going to do. He's still a nice guy, but I think he's two-faced.
What about Candace Owens? You had a sit-down with her. She called you out on a few of your more incendiary comments. You've been attacking her quite virulently recently. What's going on there?
Well, you know, it's me and her. We're so complicated. We're on and off. It's very passionate on both sides. You know, I think there's this intense desire to be friends, but a frustration where we disagree with each other. There's a rivalry. But I thought we were going to have a friendly conversation, and then she kind of did the same thing. We're going to go on a show during the war with Iran. We're literally in the middle of a war. And she texted me the day before the United States bombed Fordo. And she said, would you like to come on my show? I said, absolutely. I said, is this going to be about Iran? She goes, I don't do setups. I said, yeah, let's do it. I come on the show, and then she's like got this weird hostile demeanor. She's doing the clip thing. Then she puts it behind a paywall. It was ridiculous. So that really was not nice. And then I think this whole Charlie Kirk thing, I think she's gone insane. I think she's absolutely lost her mind. So I feel sorry for her husband.
What did you feel when Charlie Kirk was assassinated? Where were you when you heard about it?
I was at my house, and a friend of mine who was actually at the event texted me. I said, Charlie got shot. I said, who? He said, Charlie Kirk. I said, oh my gosh, that's terrible. And honestly, it was devastating. I didn't like Charlie Kirk at all, and we had an intense rivalry, and he hated me. But honest to God, I was devastated. I was emotionally affected by it. I didn't even do a show that night because I was beside myself. So it was rough. I mean, it was hard to watch.
When you say you were beside yourself, I mean, you hated him.
I don't hate anybody. I didn't hate him, but I really didn't like him. I intensely disliked him, and I didn't agree with him.
He called you vermin, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, he hated me also.
But you were still beside yourself when you heard what happened to him.
I was. I thought it was.
He's a good guy. That's
what
why.
was done to him, and it was tragic, and it was horrifying.
Sound like a liberal.
Do you fear
Celebrate
an
it.
attack like that on yourself if you up your own security because of this? Because your profile's got exponentially higher since what happened to Charlie Kirk.
I have increased my security, and but you know, something similar like that happened to me. Someone came to my house with a gun about a year ago, almost exactly, trying to kill me, and he was shot and killed in my alleyway. So I've had increased security for a while. It's a bad time out there, and I do believe it was a left-wing person that killed him. I think it was a left-wing person that tried to kill me. So yeah, I take it very seriously.
Elon Musk said on his X platform that you're a Fed. You're a paid-up hire of the government. Is that true?
He says hated me also while finishing staying I don't hate anyone.
100. You've never
Yeah,
worked
I heard
for
that
in any
too.
capacity.
I've never talked to federal law enforcement, and
I should
actually,
say
I
don't like
testified
him.
to that fact under oath
hate it.
when I was subpoenaed by the Congress. People leave that part out, but I got subpoenaed, I think, in January 2022, I think it was. And I was deposed by the subcommittee, the House Select Subcommittee, on January 6th. And they asked me, did you speak with any federal law enforcement? And under oath, I said, no, I've never had contact with them. I've never turned over devices. So no, absolutely not.
There's been footage that's come out again this week. This is you at the January the 6th riots. Let's take a look.
Juanito Beans. But he does stuff like that the whole interview.
When you're talking live, it's easy to make some mistakes like that. A little different when you can write it out, let's say it on post or something. He said it right after saying that Kirk hated him.
You're heard there shouting down your loud hailer, break down the barriers and disregard the police. The capital belongs to us now. What did you mean by that?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. The capital belongs to the people.
Yep.
Disregard the police.
Not wrong.
You don't support law and order.
No, I support law and order, but on that day, the police were brutal. The police killed somebody, Ashley Babbitt. And, you know, they were throwing people off of the rafters. They killed multiple people, so...
When disregarding
tear
the
gas,
police is the first step.
The whole crowd, indiscriminately.
Well, I think the first step to anarchy is when the government rigs the election, which is what happened. That is when the government loses its legitimacy, and its enforcers, consequently, do also.
Well,
That's exactly what happened in 2020.
There is no evidence the government rigged the election. You know that. You're a bright guy.
Well, let's talk about it. You want to talk about the election of 2020?
Yeah. I think Trump lost it fair and square. I think he fought the wrong argument about the stolen election. I've said to him, to his face,
I agree.
The argument he should have said is that the deliberate suppression of things like the Hunter Biden laptop scandal from the media, by social media, by big tech, was actually a deliberate attempt to subvert the result of the election. And that's a much better argument because it's undeniable. When the New York Post that had that exclusive were basically shadow banned off all social
It's
media
basically rigging
for
the
2 weeks
election.
before the election. That was an absolute disgrace. And if I was Donald Trump, I would focus on that as being my main argument that election was slanted against him. When he goes off into saying that there was widespread rigging, voter systems were wrong, we've litigated all this now through various court cases. Various Republican judges have ruled there was no rigging of that. In fact, the American election system is accepted by most people around the world as being one of the best in the world, one of the most reliable. So I just think he fought the wrong argument. If he said the deliberate suppression of damaging stories to the Bidens, which could have swung the election, was outrageous and unacceptable, I'm 100% behind him. But by building this spurious argument that it was all rigged through voting systems and so on, he lost me.
Well, I agree about the voting systems, but, you know, when they went into the machines, I think that was ridiculous. However, what has to be accounted for is that in 2016, 35% of the votes were cast by mail. By 2020, it was 70% because of the pandemic. So you doubled the amount of votes that happened by mail. They called it in-person early voting. They called it a variety of different things. And the other thing that they changed is they solicited the mail-in ballots. So they sent ballots to people's houses. And once you do that, I mean, you have absentee balloting normally, but it's a process. You got to give your social security number, your ID. They send it to you. There's regulations in place. This is an election where they doubled the amount of mail-in votes, and they sent ballots to people's houses. And when you do that, you break the chain of custody. So they send the ballot out, and then they tell people return it at a 24-hour ballot drop site that's unsupervised. There's thousands of them, and they're going to hope that all the ballots that find their way into these drop boxes were filled out by the person that the ballot was intended for. And I know that didn't happen. I'll tell you why. My uncle has been dead for 26 years. He got a ballot in 2020. It was mailed to my parents' house. And you know that was happening in nursing homes. You know that was happening in apartment buildings.
But you also know that every independent body that has looked at this has concluded there was no widespread rigging, that it was a free and fair election, and Trump lost. And the bottom line is he should stop going on about it anyway, because he won back the White House in 2024. By your, I mean, well, as you have been so keen to tell me, move on, right? No one wants to look back too far.
That's a separate argument. I mean, you can say that he should stop talking about it, but whether it was rigged or not is actually relevant to what happened on January 6th, because what happened on J 6th is people were outraged about it. People were furious that, by the way, there's never been an independent ballot audit in all the states where there was alleged to be rigging. That has not happened. And certainly it did not happen up until January 6th. And people said, this is ridiculous. They're stealing it. You know, there was that
people,
red
honestly,
mirage.
if either you or Donald Trump or anybody else wants to show me, I said this to him when I interviewed him last, you know, if you show me the actual hardcore, incontrovertible evidence, then great. I've never seen it. Joe Rogan asked him. He didn't produce it with Joe Rogan. It's just never been produced. But look, I don't want to labour the point on that. So I suppose the more interesting question now, as your influence rises in the conservative movement in America, and there's a lot of splits going on amongst MAGA over a number of issues, and about you, and you know this, is your split with Trump irrevocable? Do you feel now, as we head towards the year of the midterms, that it's time to now look to who his successor will be, and who do you think that person should be?
Well, it's not irrevocable, but I am very pessimistic about this administration. And succession is something that I've been interested in for as long as I've been doing this show. And I think it's very clear that they are grooming J.D. Vance to be that successor. And by they, I mean Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, Peter Thiel. There seems to be an organization that was put in place roughly around 2022 when Peter Thiel was very active in the midterm elections. He spent, I think, over $30 million, $15 million for Vance, $15 million for Masters, spent a lot of money in a lot of other congressional races, trying to unseat the Republicans that voted for impeachment in 21, and also building out a media market, building out a patronage network, funding things like Passage Press, Sovereign House, a number of other projects to create sort of like a self-contained media ecosystem. And Vance is clearly the selected nominee. That is who the interests want. And they've been pushing for him very strongly. So I think he's the heir apparent right now. There's a forceful push. I've heard good things about him. I've heard bad things about him too. And where I think it needs to go is I think we need to return to the message from 2016, what Trump said in the first election, which is we need to drain the swamp. We need to get the money out of politics, the super PACs, the special interests, put America first in foreign policy and the wars, close the border and deport the illegals, and reindustrialize America, bring back manufacturing, bring back jobs. We're in this Cold War with China. We need America to have productive capacity again. We need America to have wealth. So I think whoever is going to bring us back to that, that's who I'm going to support. And I haven't seen enough from Vance yet.
You called J.D. Vance's wife a Jeet. What does that mean?
It's a slur for Indians.
Why would you use that?
Well, you want the honest answer?
Because you're a racist?
No, there's actually a different reason. The reason why I said that, if you watched the whole show, did you watch that whole show, by the way?
No, but you've admitted you used that slur. I'm just curious why you would use that about a woman with her heritage.
I'll tell you, there's a really important reason why, and this is why context matters. If you look online at the people that are supporting J.D. Vance the most, they are racist. They're racist also, let's say. And they look at someone like myself. I don't support J.D. Vance. And they say, you're brown. You're a third worldist. They are gleefully participating in the cruelty. You could say the performative cruelty of the Trump administration. They say, you're going back. You have 100 days until you're being deported. You're going in a crystal. And then they tell us to vote for J.D. Vance. And so all I did on the show is I said, you have basically racist chuds that post memes about Indians all day on Twitter, memes about third worldists and Palestinians even. But then they want to turn around and support a guy who has said on Twitter, how dare you say I'm racist? I have non-white kids and I'm in an interracial marriage. And all I said is that's I just said that's a little ironic. I said that's hypocritical. And Vance is going to have to explain to all of his supporters who have gassed him up as the real, the real mass deportation candidate. He's going to have to explain to them what's going on with that. What is with the contradiction? Because
and you
it is
don't
a
feel any
contradiction.
accountability for the millions of young people that will hear you use that slur and think it's fine to use it.
No, I think that's ridiculous.
Okay. Let's take a final break and come back with a little kind of summary of how you think this interview has gone for you.
Okay.
If you're a fan of epic fantasy, Arthurian legend, or just epic storytelling, I have some good news for you. The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin, is the Daily Wire's new 7-part cinematic series, and it's so good, it will shock you. It's a top-quality reimagining of the King Arthur legend, which follows a young Merlin in a Britain torn apart by warring factions and standing on the brink of a new era with the rise of Christianity. Daily Wire Plus All Access members get the first 2 full episodes on Christmas Day. Not a teaser, not a sneak peek. Episodes 1 and 2 a full month before anybody else. So if you want to go ahead with the story, now's the time to join. And with the sale happening right now, you can get 50% off memberships, including the All Access plan. The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin, premieres on January the 22nd, but All Access members can start watching on Christmas morning. Head to dailywireplus.com so you don't miss out.
This show on the Daily Wire.
Okay, Nick Fuentes, we've been talking for nearly 2 hours. What is your view of how the interview has gone?
I think it was great. Honestly, I think it was a tough interview. You're a tough interviewer. But I don't think there were surprises. I will not say it was an ambush because it wasn't. I sort of anticipated that you would make some choices about how you wanted it to go, and I was fine with it. So I thought it was terrific.
It's almost over.
As a Catholic, you're probably aware the Jerusalem Post has recently called on the Pope to openly condemn you. Would it matter to you if the Pope did? He's an American Pope, obviously.
It would be very disheartening, yes.
Why?
Because he's our spiritual leader. He's the head of the church. He's the vicar of Christ. So if he condemned me, that would be very disheartening. And it would depend upon what he would say exactly. But yeah, I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like that at all.
If he condemned you because you've openly admitted to being a racist on this show?
Oh, this racist. I would be disappointed if he said that, because I think that word racist, it means something different to everybody. And so I think that's just silly. I think that's just semantic.
Have you ever been in love in your life?
No, like romantically, no.
Yeah, never.
No.
Do you think that's part of the problem?
What's the problem?
Why you are the way you are.
Oh, and what's the way I am? What are you trying to say?
I've given people 2 hours of the way you are. You're unashamed about a lot of it.
I don't think I have a problem. I think I'm cheerful, boisterous. Look, unlike you, I'm willing to be a little provocative. Well, I guess you're willing to be provocative, but I'm willing to be very provocative, and I'm a free thinker. And I don't like to be tone policed. I don't like to be told about, people are going to tone police and play moral cop about you can't make this joke or you can't make this statement. And I think that's just about being intellectually open. I'm a believer in openness, and I like ideas.
I completely agree. I think you should be perfectly free to express yourself exactly how you see fit. My problem is how you see fit with some of the things that you say. And we've been through a lot of them, and I think people who don't know you very well will have been shocked in parts and surprised in other parts. But in totality, they can see you for what you are. I think we've got a lot nearer to what the real Nick Fuentes is in the last 2 hours than we probably have seen from your other recent interviews. Would you agree?
No, I mean, the clip thing, we've done the clip thing. We've all seen the clip show. Everyone's seen the clips. You think you're the first one to do the ADL rap sheet. So here you said this, and then here you said that. I've been playing that game for 10 years. So this is honestly more of the same, to tell you the truth.
Nick Fuentes, I appreciate you coming on Uncensored. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, my thanks to Nick Fuentes, and my thanks to the hundreds of thousands of you watching this special live episode of Piers Morgan Uncensored. As I said during the interview, I think it was firm but fair, but you can all make up your own minds. If you like what you do, please like and subscribe the channel so that we can keep doing it. I'm back tomorrow. Until then, whatever you're
I
up
don't know
to,
what
keep it
term you're talking
uncensored.
about. Old misogynist dinosaur. Or something else. I think he might have said it after talking to him. Okay. Interesting. That was a win for Nick. Yeah, Pierce got to do what he wanted to do.
Misogynist.
Oh, well, I can't believe he didn't remember that word. There's misogynist and misandrist. Most feminists are misandrists. That's what I thought red pill, 'cause a lot of red pill people are misogynists.
All about perspective.
A little bit. But if you hate men, I mean, there's not a perspective where that is not misandry. Does he hate women? I don't believe he hates women. Pierce can say shit like that all he wants. Doesn't make it true. He just doesn't want them to vote. He doesn't want them working in as CEOs or have leadership over men, which is a very Catholic thing to say.
Juanito Beans. I think Pierce did a good job showing us who he was, that all we wanted to see.
For those who want to just see Nick as a racist, misogynist, then yeah, Pierce got to show us that side of it. But Nick did a pretty good job at defending himself too.
Juanito Beans. But Tate says the same thing.
Similar. Tate doesn't really, well, I think he does say something about marriage, but he's coming at it from a different angle. I would say Tate's more misogynistic than Nick is. There's some similarities, but I'm sure there's some differences too. I'm full. Almost done with this mine. I don't know everything that Tate's been saying lately. There's some things he says I agree with. What he was talking about the economy in this one video, and he was like spot on. Like, wow, all right. He was saying why Abu Dhabi or whatever, Saudi Arabia was better in certain regards. Like, yeah, he wasn't wrong. Oh, missed that stat. This. I don't have iron just showing up. I probably don't hate Andrew Tate or dislike him as much as I used to, but there's still things he says I disagree with wholeheartedly. I don't care for like how he got his millions. I hope Chase beats his ass. No way, that was a good interview. Couldn't pay attention to all of it. It's hard to listen to James a little bit, but it's alright.
Juanito Beans. If never been in love and never had sex, he's just sitting there on the internet fuming over shit. Isn't Tate's worldview nicer?
What is his worldview? I'm not even sure how to compare them. I think it might be closer to the way things used to be, like before the 50s and maybe even before the 19th Amendment. When women actually had it better back then than they do now. They didn't incur debt.
Give us a tour of your mind.
They weren't political pawns.
Juanito Beans. Bless you.
Thank you. Let's see, I'm almost done. Let's see. Might be the last bit of iron. And instead of doing it like before when I started levels, now I just start from the top, go way down. There's no point in putting down block except for this part. And sometimes the iron blends in with the rock. I may have missed a few, but that is it. Now just basically a big old hole with a cap on top. If James was here, he'd say you should blow the top off, but then I'll drive into it and fall in. There's one that I did it for him. Not too far from here. I'm just waiting on the day where I'm driving through and I fall into it. Mainly try to get a supply drop, which I'm about to get. That mine is somewhere over there.
Juanito Beans. Just throw a bunch of dynamite in there. From the top up there of the hatch.
Well, that's what I did. Here, I'm probably close enough to show you. I think it's just over here. No. No, I think it's closer to that cemetery over there, but it just makes a big old hole, of course. You just blew off the top with a few sticks of dynamite. I don't have dynamite with me. Yeah, I'd just rather leave it for now. Maybe someday I can just go around and fuck around, but nah. Well, that's a pretty good haul. Time to get the supply drop. Go home. Back to the hard base. See, if I was driving through here, and let's say I had a mine here and did that to it, then the vehicle would fall in. I wouldn't have enough storage space. I would have to make a crate, put all the stuff in it, go down there, get the vehicle, and bring it back up. Otherwise, just stick to the roads at all times or something. I don't know. Run the rest of the way like I just did. Oh. What was that? I thought I had gotten some concrete blocks. No, just... Huh? I already had 500 cubes, I thought. Whatever. Swore I saw something. Damn it. I think the road goes west. There it is. $7:30. Yep, that's the time I was waiting on. About time to have dinner. Which is, I think, more beef stew. Had beef stew yesterday. There's probably a lot of leftover beef stew. That's why I'm having it 2 days in a row. By beef stew, I mean I just eat the beef. I don't eat the potatoes and carrots. Other shit. If there's not enough beef, I'll eat some potatoes. Throw a plate trap down before I forget. I think I have some extras.
Juanito Beans. When you get back, we'll get on some Fire Cry.
Fire Cry. Alright. Not a book I haven't read. Correct. Oh, that's taking up a spot. I was like, why are my turrets not going to fit? Alright, that's half right. Oh, I must have added those 100 to these. Oh, so it was concrete. I got it. Sweet. Okay. Forgot I had that on me. I could use that during the mining. No. Oh, I need nitrates next. I got enough gunpowder. When I need more gunpowder, then I'll go mine some nitrates. Otherwise, I got a crap ton coming. Yeah, that's full of meat. Oh,
James de 2ND. Hola.
Hello again. I'm about to get off though. Need to eat. Take shit. And then I'll be back off. I'll put these away for now. I think I'm missing something though.
James the 2ND. Eat shit sounds bad, lol.
No, I'll shit first into a toilet, and then I'll eat some beef. I feel like I'm missing something. Got both my turrets. Eh.
James the 2ND. Not into your mouth?
I'm not that flexible. Done. Put more sand in you. Got enough bullet tip to last a little while. I'll start some more bullets later. I'll just throw them in here. Oh, put iron in there now.
James the 2ND. What was Juan talking about, LOL?
No, we were talking about the Nick Fuentes interview. Mostly. Oh yeah, you're full. And fans only used for glass, which I never used, but I just want to have these forges as full as possible. Alright, guys. I'll be back in like 20-30 minutes. So stay
James the
frosty.
2ND. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Or see you later.